Warrior Lore. Chapter 1194. The Evil Purifying Alliance was an alliance of all the forces in Shang Province. 10 alliance elders were selected from the older generation of experts from the various factions. The purpose of the Evil Purifying Alliance was to eliminate the evil spirits that were wreaking havoc in Shang Province. Those evil spirits had already spawned in Shang Province. They could devour people's minds and souls to strengthen themselves. They massacred humans wantonly. They were strange and difficult to deal with. Normal attacks would not be able to eliminate them completely. Back then, the various forces in Shang Province did not plan to deal with those evil spirits on a large scale. They were all minding their own business. However, those evil spirits were getting crazier and crazier. Some of them were getting stronger and stronger. The entire Shang Province was affected. Only then did the various forces realize that if they did not eliminate those evil spirits now, it would be too late in the future. Therefore, the Evil Purifying Alliance was formed, not only in Shang Province, but in the other 8 provinces as well. The younger generation of the Evil Purifying Alliance in Shang Province fought for the position of Alliance leader. Mu Jianxian of the Saman Sword Sect, one of the 12 heroes, was elected as the Alliance leader. He led the various forces in Shang Province to eliminate the evil spirits together. For a time, the situation in Shang Province was turbulent. All the major forces were mobilized and started a mighty cleansing operation. They directly killed all kinds of evil spirits. Under such a cleansing operation, the rampaging evil spirits finally stopped growing crazily and started to retreat. When Du Xiaofu woke up from his unconscious state, his body was still in pain. It was as if his body was about to be torn apart. "I'm not dead yet." Du Xiaofu's first reaction was to feel the pain. He knew that he was not dead yet. However, the endless yellow lightning was being rapidly absorbed by the thunder martial vein in Du Xiaofu's body. At this moment, the yellow lightning energy was being absorbed by the thunder martial vein. Du Xiaofu could feel that the thunder martial vein was changing faster and stronger. The yellow lightning energy was like the nourishment of the thunder martial vein. What surprised Du Xiaofu the most was that the thunder martial vein in his body had finally turned the tables in this tug of war. At this moment, although Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein was still unable to completely suppress the vast and resplendent yellow thunderbolts, at least it was able to protect itself and was no longer suppressed by the yellow thunderbolts. It was still continuously absorbing the thunderbolts like a bottomless pit. Although the thunderbolt martial vein could absorb the yellow spiritual lightning, the intense pain it brought about in his body still made Du Xiaofu feel so much pain that he wished he was dead. However, it was obviously much better than the previous torture that was worse than death. The thunder martial vein crazily absorbed too much yellow radiant spiritual thunder, and it was still absorbing. That violent energy attack seemed to want to tear Du Xiaofu's body apart. In Du Xiaofu's mind, the most resplendent yellow lightning arc tortoise was releasing a violent and destructive pressure that wanted to destroy Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. But now, Du Xiaofu was surprised to find that the silver lightning arc tree in his primordial spirit, which was formed by the silver lightning arc tree, had miraculously merged with the mysterious light of the spiritual root talisman under the pressure of the yellow radiance thunder spirit. The mysterious light of the spiritual root talisman, which could not be activated and controlled by Du Xiaofu, had now merged with the silver lightning arc tree and covered it. It was as if it had turned into leaves of light that covered the entire tree. As the silver lightning arc tree and the mysterious light of the spiritual root talisman merged together, there seemed to be a chemical reaction between the two. It began to breed a new aura, which was ancient and overbearing and could not be provoked. Originally, as Du Xiaofu's body had swallowed and refined a large amount of energy from the spiritual herbs and heavenly treasures, many of which had the effect of strengthening the primordial spirit. After the energy was refined, it flowed into the Naiwan Palace and was absorbed by the silver lightning arc tree, which had merged with the mysterious light of the spiritual root talisman, making it more and more powerful. There was also the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique that was automatically circulating in his mind, assisting the fusion of the silver lightning arc tree and the spiritual root. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the silver lightning arc tree and the spiritual root to truly fuse together so smoothly. The mysterious incomplete cultivation technique seemed to have been triggered by something and circulated in his mind on its own. An ancient white light spread out in his Niwan palace, as if it was shrouded in divine light. As the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique circulated, it seemed to be able to absorb everything, causing the lightning tortoise's eyes to reveal a look of horror. In the sea of lightning, where the resplendent yellow lightning arcs gathered, Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in a layer of flickering lightning. Purple lightning arcs flowed in all directions. After swallowing the yellow spiritual lightning, the aura of the lightning martial vein on Du Xiaofu's body became stronger and stronger. It was already filled with the aura of a supreme being. The majestic spiritual liquid energy that his body had swallowed caused the celestial energy in his god's watchtower to be filled to the brim, showing signs of a breakthrough. Du Xiaofu's naked body was crystal clear and emitted a golden light. The essence blood of various demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking was cleansing his bones and marrow to the extreme. Behind him, there was a golden light of the mysterious light of the talisman that shot into the sky. It vaguely resembled a golden-winged rock that was flapping its wings. It was overbearing and intimidating. A supreme being amongst beasts, swoosh, swoosh, the bright moon moved. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. 3 figures streaked across the night sky. Sumushin, so you're really a woman. You deceived the Munchu, and you're no longer a virgin. If you let that Du Xiaofu go, the elders have already decided to remove you from the position of sect master. You'll be temporarily locked up in the heavenly prison to await your punishment. Surrender without a fight. You know that the situation in front of you is hopeless. You have nowhere to run. In the night sky, there was a sneer. Dozens of figures flew through the air and chased after each other. The vast and mighty aura froze a large area of the void. Whoosh, whoosh. 3 beautiful figures landed in front of a swaying space. A violent and destructive aura filled the air. Junior sister, we have nowhere to run. I'll help you block a few of them. You run first. As long as you find master, you can return to the Haohuan school and take back the position of sect master. A charming and beautiful woman with a pale face and dark red blood stains at the corner of her mouth added to her poignant beauty. She was the laughing Rakshasa of the Haohuan school, Tang Miling. How can they let me out of the school so easily? They've already set up an inescapable net outside the school. They definitely won't let us leave to find master. What they want to do is to get rid of us completely before master returns. Her hair cascaded down to her slender waist, and the beautiful face of a purple-robed woman was deathly pale. However, that beautiful face was still enough to captivate all living things. It was so beautiful that it was soul-stirring. Master, you shouldn't have saved me. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to hurt you. A beautiful woman with limpid eyes spoke. She was Ji Jiyan. The beautiful woman turned around and smiled at Ji Jiyan. Don't think too much. Where there's life, there's hope. As long as we find your grandmaster, we'll have a chance to turn the tables. This is what they're most afraid of now. Junior sister, I'm afraid that we don't even know when master will return. It could be a few years, or a few decades, or even a few centuries. Tang Miling frowned. She hesitated for a moment and said, or perhaps he'll never return. Su Mushin raised her eyes slightly and didn't say anything. Suddenly, she looked at the night sky behind her. There were already figures flying over like lightning. She opened her mouth and said, "They've caught up. Whether we live or die, it's up to the heavens. If we fall into their hands, we'll definitely die. There's only a slim chance of survival inside. Let's go in. Even if we die, we can't fall into their hands. The Haohuan school is already under their control." Tang Miling bit her red lips that were stained with blood. Her eyes were filled with coldness. Swish! Su Mushin's hand seals had already formed. Mysterious runes surged out and instantly turned into energy runes that fell into the fluctuating space in front of them. Rumble! Suddenly, the space rippled and a rune space notch appeared in front of them. Let's go. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Mushin grabbed Ji Jiyan with one hand and rushed into the notch. Tang Miling's beautiful figure followed closely behind. The 3 beautiful figures instantly disappeared into the spatial ripples, and the spatial ripples returned to normal. Swish, swish. As the three of them disappeared, more than 10 figures landed one after another. A vast aura condensed in the air and spread in all directions. We were a step too late. They actually escaped. A handsome man's face was gloomy. His eyes were filled with coldness, but there seemed to be some kind of reluctance in his eyes. He didn't know that Sumushin was such a beautiful woman. That's a land of death. Those who go and never come out. It saves a lot of effort. A beautiful woman in the front murmured with coldness in her eyes. I just don't know if that bitch collected those 2 cultivation techniques. It would be a pity if the Qinyang dragon subduing technique really fell into her hands. Walala! In the sea of lightning where the vast yellow light gathered, the aura on Du Xiaofu's body had risen to a critical point. At this moment, as the thunder martial vein absorbed the energy of the yellow spiritual thunder, the aura became stronger. There was also a wave of energy that seeped out from the thunder martial vein and entered his body. It was as if it was returning to its origin. It was like the reverse flow of the sea, and it kept surging into Du Xiaofu's divine watchtower. Chapter 1195. His aura strengthened, and his divine watchtower was full. Du Xiaofu could clearly feel an unprecedented power surging out of his body. Even his physical body had strengthened once again from its original level of strength. His bones, muscles, meridians, and acupoints were all strengthening. Du Xiaofu's entire body was filled with a faint golden fluorescent light from inside out. His physical body continued to transform under the extreme cleansing of his bones and marrow, a transformation that leaped by leaps and bounds. This kind of leaping transformation of his physical body made Du Xiaofu feel that even if he fought purely with his physical body now, his battle strength would still soar. Bang! Suddenly, the critical point within Du Xiaofu's full divine watchtower expanded to the point where it could no longer be suppressed. A low muffled sound rang out. In an instant, an unprecedentedly powerful aura swept out from Du Xiaofu's body as if it covered the sky and covered the earth. Rumble! This domineering and terrifying aura caused the yellow lightning space to rumble endlessly. It stirred up lightning that overflowed into the sky, as if it wanted to stir up the sea of lightning until it turned the sky and earth upside down. The domineering energy fluctuation caused the lightning arcs in the yellow lightning sea to undulate like a vast ocean. Like a golden rainbow across the sky, bright and dazzling runes surged in all directions. At this moment, at the same time, an incomparably domineering aura began to seep out from Du Xiaofu's body. A purplish gold light shot out in all directions, as if the sun was about to rise in this sea of lightning. Walala! The bright purplish gold lightning was tens of thousands of feet long. It was as if countless purplish gold energy ribbons were pouring into this yellow lightning space, emitting a blazing light. In the next instant, a huge purplish gold golden-winged rock illusion spread its wings and soared into the sky from the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. This purplish gold rock illusion enveloped Du Xiaofu's body, as if it had merged into one and was about to soar into the sky. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body swept out from the sea of lightning, as if he had transformed into a real golden-winged rock. Gee! Du Xiaofu roared like the cry of a golden-winged rock. The sound waves pierced through the clouds amidst the resplendent yellow sea of lightning. Rumble! The shadow behind Du Xiaofu spread its enormous wings, and purple-gold lightning arcs sparkled all over its body. Its ferocious aura spread out, causing the entire lightning space to tremble. Golden-winged rock, are you a human or a demonic beast? The sea of thunder surged, the yellow light was resplendent, and the thunder was boiling. The surprised voice of the spiritual thunder came. At this moment, this violent and destructive spiritual thunder seemed to have sensed something from Du Xiaofu's body. As the thunder boiled violently, it once again condensed into a huge yellow lightning turtle that was thousands of feet long. The 10,000 feet long lightning turtle exuded a violent and destructive aura, and it seemed to cause the entire space to tremble. Its eyes were fixed on the purple-gold golden-winged great pung that surrounded Du Xiaofu. Transcendent martial honorables, refining the divine body, ha-ha, faced with the huge lightning turtle's gaze, Du Xiaofu laughed heartily from within the purple-gold golden-winged great pung. His eyes shot out purple-gold lightning arcs, and they were like two bright suns that illuminated the sky, overlooking the world. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt as if he had transformed into a real golden-winged rock, and he could sense and capture everything about the golden-winged rock. His heart and spirit moved, and his mind wandered. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt as if he was the real golden-winged rock, soaring in the heavens, and he could control the supreme power. In the Sea of Thunder, the violent and destructive yellow spiritual thunder could no longer make Du Xiaofu feel uncomfortable. The purple-gold golden-winged great Peng behind Du Xiaofu seemed to merge perfectly, and it released an endless and domineering aura. It was as if it was going to soar into the heavens. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had completely changed. He had turned the situation around, and he had stepped into the transcendent, martial, honorable realm. With the help of the heavenly beast ranking's blood essence and the Dragon Nine's blood, he had cleansed his bones and cleansed his marrow. Along with the breakthrough, he had completed the cleansing of his bones and had stepped into the realm of refining the divine body. Strong, there was an unprecedented amount of power surging in his body. It was as if he could subdue dragons and tigers with just a raise of his hand, and he could crush the void. This kind of power in his body made Du Xiaofu's heart tremble, and he wanted to roar loudly. The huge lightning turtle, under the supreme aura of Du Xiaofu's golden-winged Great Peng, also had a fierce look in its eyes. The spiritual thunder could not understand. The human in front of it had clearly reached the point where he could not withstand a single blow. How could he rise up again, and even break through? The human in front of it was like a real Great Peng, and it could not believe it. This is my territory. Even if you can break through, you will still be destroyed. The yellow lightning tortoise roared, glaring at the violet gold great rock in rage. Its eyes were so ferocious that they seemed to materialize into lightning, shooting towards the great rock. Chila! Du Xiaofu flapped his wings, and the huge purple-gold rock behind him flapped its wings, shattering the two bright yellow lightning bolts. In the next instant, a naked figure wrapped in dazzling purple-gold lightning slowly walked out of the illusory figure. Purple-gold light shone brightly like a miracle. From the body of the tall and straight figure, there was a supreme aura that filled the air and suppressed the world. At this instant, dazzling violet gold bolts of lightning flashed out from the surroundings, violet gold talisman markings flickered, and an unprecedentedly formidable aura stretched out from the tall figure of violet gold bolts of lightning. The aura was incomparably powerful, engulfing the skies. It couldn't be provoked, but it also carried the power of execution. His eyes shot out violet gold lightning like two violet gold suns, and the domineering aura caused the space to rumble. Du Xiaofu slowly raised his head and looked at the humongous lightning tortoise in front of him. A sinister smile appeared on his face, and the corners of his mouth curled up as he said, "You must be satisfied after dealing with me for so long. Humph, you will die too." Sensing the sinister look in Du Xiaofu's eyes, the lightning tortoise was enraged. It stirred up a large patch of dazzling yellow lightning that swept towards Du Xiaofu. Still using the same tricks? It's a pity that they won't work now. Looking at the dazzling yellow lightning that swept towards him, Du Xiaofu smiled. He wrapped his body with the thunder martial vein, opened his mouth, and instantly sucked the dazzling yellow lightning into his mouth. Finally, he licked his lips greedily, as if he had not had enough. His physical body had been tempered, and it had reached the divine body refinement realm. Originally, Du Xiaofu's body had been tempered by the violet gold lightning in the purple lightning profound cauldron, and he had the immortal Xian body. Now, with the protection of the thunder martial vein, he had already gotten used to the yellow spiritual lightning in desperate situations. Therefore, Du Xiaofu had already gotten used to the yellow spiritual lightning. Moreover, after such a long time, although the spiritual lightning seemed to have endless energy, Du Xiaofu also felt that it had consumed a lot of energy in the stalemate with him. The spiritual lightning was consumed more by the spiritual lightning soul seed in Du Xiaofu's Naiwan Palace, which caused the yellow spiritual lightning to become much weaker. Now, it's my turn. After swallowing the yellow lightning, Du Xiaofu's sinister smile still hung on his face, and the dazzling violet gold lightning started to surge around him. It's not your turn to be arrogant, puny brat. You're courting death. The lightning turtle was enraged, and with a furious roar, its huge body charged toward Du Xiaofu with boiling lightning. Bastard, Du Xiaofu sneered, and at the same time, the huge violet gold lightning rock behind him flapped its wings and swept out. Its mighty and domineering pressure swept out, and its huge body covered most of the space. Coo! The purple gold rock screeched. Its voice seemed to penetrate the lightning space. The sound waves were able to distort the lightning in the space. Its body was covered in purple gold electric arcs. As they twisted rapidly, they finally gathered into huge purple gold thunderbolts. Bolts of purple gold lightning destroyed the surrounding yellow lightning before landing heavily on the lightning tortoise's body. The terrifying violet gold lightning that covered the sky and earth fell, and the lightning turtle's body trembled. Roar! The lightning turtle roared, and the sound of thunder resounded. Its ferocious head was like a giant python flying dragon, and in an instant, it swallowed the violet gold lightning rock with lightning speed. Chi-la, violet gold lightning arcs erupted from the violet gold rock's sharp claws. The lightning arcs wreaked havoc in the sky, and it was like a violet gold sun in the sky. A claw print tore through the space, and directly tore the lightning turtle's ferocious head apart. The violet gold rock's other claw landed heavily on the lightning turtle's back. Chi-la-la, the terrifying claw print landed, and the lightning turtle, which was filled with wild and destructive energy, was in a stalemate for a moment before cracks began to appear on its body. In the next instant, the surface of the 1,000 feet large lightning turtle began to ripple with violent yellow lightning arcs. Rumble. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body swooped down, and his fist, which was covered by the lightning martial vein, was like a violet gold lightning ball, as it heavily landed on the lightning turtle's cracked back. The violet gold lightning was filled with killing intent, and its aura was like that of a lightning sovereign. Rumble. The lightning turtle finally cracked under Du Xiaofu's punch. Hua-la-la, the destructive and violent energy spread out, and it turned into a dazzling lightning rune that swept out like a tidal wave. In this terrifying sea of spiritual lightning, Du Xiaogang was no longer afraid, and he could move freely without any damage. Bastard! In Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, the miniature lightning turtle, which was formed by the yellow spiritual lightning soul seed, roared and said furiously, "Boy, I will not let you go. When I devour your primordial spirit, you will be doomed forever." Chapter 1196. You still want to swallow my primordial spirit? When Du Xiaofu heard this, the huge purple gold lightning rock behind him disappeared and turned into a series of purple gold talisman inscriptions that covered the surface of his body. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. Tsk tisked. At the same time, in Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, the miniature version of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit had a silvery white electric arc in its eyes. Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit moved as it gave off the aura of being forged by the purple gold Xian bomb. Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit stared intently at the lightning turtle in his Naiwen Palace as it faintly revealed a sinister smile. Brat, you want to swallow me? The lightning turtle with the soul seed seemed to have sensed the intention of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. It was surprised that Du Xiaofu wanted to swallow its soul seed. You want to swallow my primordial spirit? Why can't I swallow your soul seed? Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit sneered and curled the corners of his mouth. He had already turned the tables. Although he did not know if he could swallow the second spiritual lightning soul seed, Du Xiaofu did not plan to let go of such an opportunity. Most importantly, the spiritual lightning soul seed had entered Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace. Other than swallowing it, Du Xiaofu could not find a way to chase it out. Tsk, you have only broken through to the extraordinary martial honorable level. Martial Domain Realm and 9-star Spiritual Symbol Master are not qualified to swallow my soul seed. You are too weak. When it heard this, the spiritual lightning soul seed was stunned. It then laughed coldly. You are not the first spiritual lightning soul seed that I have swallowed. Du Xiaofu glanced at the lightning turtle with the soul seed. This spiritual lightning soul seed was naturally more difficult to swallow than the silver silk soul-devouring bomb. However, it did not seem like there was no chance. Upon hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the thunder tortoise's eyes darkened as it stared at the tree of silver lightning arcs in front of it. Then, it trembled and fell silent. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking, his Yuan spirit body sat down cross-legged in his Niwen palace. He formed a seal with his hands and started to mutter, "The Tao of heaven and earth uses yin and yang to create all things. Heaven and earth, sun and moon, thunder and lightning, wind and rain. 4 seasons, male and female, hard and soft, active and passive. All things are divided into yin and yang. Heaven and earth see people as mayflies, and the great Tao sees heaven and earth as bubbles and shadows. Only the true nature of the primordial spirit surpasses the primordial spirit, and its essence disappears along with the heaven and earth. However, as long as the primordial spirit exists, there is no limit. It is born from the heaven and earth. If you want to see the primordial spirit, you must first see the light of Xing. This light is the light of true Xing. Without light, it is difficult to find the true Xing primordial spirit." As Du Xiaofu finished muttering, he turned into a series of unfamiliar characters. They were like dazzling ancient runes that bloomed like fireworks in his Niwen palace. In the end, they enveloped the soul-seeded lightning turtle. Crackle, at the same time. The silver electric tree in front of Du Xiaofu's Yuan spirit that had fused with his spiritual root exuded an ancient aura. It was as if one was facing a king that could not be resisted. It directly suppressed the soul-seeded lightning turtle. At this moment, the aura of the silver electric tree was not to be challenged. Mysterious runes erupted, and it was as if the silver electric tree was taking root and sprouting. Countless branches and leaves spread out like a net of light and enveloped the lightning turtle. Roar! The lightning turtle roared and immediately struggled. A terrifying destructive force swept out, but the more it struggled, the tighter it became under the shroud of the silver electric tree. The mysterious runes on the silver electric tree were like the sharpest blades of light. It was as if they were going to cut the soul-seeded lightning turtle into pieces. A magnificent and desolate aura spread. It was as if a supreme being had ascended to the heavens. The soul-seeded lightning turtle struggled, and terrifying destructive electric arcs erupted. Under such a struggle, Du Xiaofu felt excruciating pain in his Yuan spirit even though he had some advantage and something to rely on. His entire body was under attack. This soul-seeded lightning turtle was definitely not easy to devour and refine. Otherwise, there would have been experts from the Hahuan school who had successfully fused with the soul-seeded lightning turtle over the past 2,000 years. They could only seal it. At this moment, although the soul-seeded lightning turtle struggle made Du Xiaofu uncomfortable, Du Xiaofu had been through a long period of extreme pain. It was as if he had been tempered in a hopeless situation. The pain at this moment was not unbearable for Du Xiaofu. The soul-seeded lightning turtle struggle stimulated Du Xiaofu's full strength. He used the mysterious incomplete technique and the silver electric tree to bind the soul-seeded lightning turtle with overwhelming force. Gradually, fear appeared in the soul-seeded lightning turtle's eyes. It could not understand how the human in front of it, who was on the verge of death, could reverse the situation so quickly. Every dog had its day. The soul-seeded lightning turtle began to fight like a trapped beast. It struggled violently and continuously released terrifying and violent destructive energy. This made Du Xiaofu's face in the outside world reveal an extremely painful expression from time to time. As time passed, the soul-seeded lightning turtle's struggle did not seem to have much effect. As Du Xiaofu used the mysterious incomplete technique and the silver electric tree to suppress it, the soul-seeded lightning turtle gradually weakened. Of course, Du Xiaofu's performance at this moment seemed to be natural and easy for him to deal with the soul-seeded lightning turtle. However, if it were someone else, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Human, let's call a truce. I can withdraw from your Mudpill Palace and let you leave this place. How about we stay out of each other's business in the future? Finally, the soul-seeded lightning turtle began to beg for mercy. It felt that it was weak and did not want to be refined and fused with. It's too late to beg for mercy now. Since you want to devour me, it's only right for me to devour you now. Du Xiaofu sneered coldly. There was no room for negotiation. Every dog has its day. Naturally, he would not let it go. While controlling the silver electric tree and using the mysterious incomplete technique, Du Xiaofu used all his strength to suppress the soul-seeded lightning turtle. At this moment, the soul-seeded lightning turtle had become weak and could not even struggle anymore. However, as the spiritual thunder, it was the most terrifying creature in the world. How could it be easy for Du Xiaofu to truly devour it? Over the countless years, there had been many experts who had dominated the world. However, only a few of them were qualified to successfully integrate a spiritual thunder. It was no doubt a fool's dream to want to completely integrate and refine it in a short period of time. Just like that, time passed. Du Xiaofu's body and primordial spirit were both sitting cross-legged like an old monk in meditation. 10 days, 20 days, or even longer. Finally, Du Xiaofu felt that the soul-seeded lightning turtle was completely powerless to resist. Its fierce eyes revealed its last reluctance and helplessness. Then, he began to absorb, refine, and integrate it. Perhaps it's because you've gotten used to this bolt of spiritual lightning in this desperate situation where you'd rather die than live. The lightning turtle no longer struggled. Refining and integrating it was easier than Du Xiaofu had expected. After successfully refining the soul-seeded lightning turtle, Du Xiaofu's face broke into a smile. He was overjoyed. The soul-seeded lightning spiritual thunder, which was originally violent and destructive, was now extremely tamed. It was like a newborn baby. It no longer resisted and integrated into the silver electric tree, causing the tree to emit a bright yellow glow. Originally, Du Xiaofu was worried that his primordial spirit already had one type of spiritual thunder. He was afraid that he would not be able to integrate a second type of spiritual thunder. Even if he could integrate a second type of spiritual thunder, he did not know what would happen when the two types of spiritual thunder merged into one. However, Du Xiaofu's worries seemed to have been for nothing. Under the effects of the mysterious incomplete technique, the two types of spiritual lightning seemed to fuse together after a slight contact. Although the integration of the two types of spiritual thunder was not perfect in the beginning and there was some resistance, it gradually became more natural and closer to perfection. At this moment, Du Xiaofu did not know that since ancient times, there had been many powerful figures and powerhouses who had integrated one type of spiritual thunder. In the end, no one succeeded in integrating a second type of spiritual thunder. Spiritual thunder was the most powerful living thing in the world. Any type of spiritual thunder was a terrifying existence. Integrating two types of spiritual thunder into one was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Du Xiaofu's ability to integrate two types of spiritual thunder was closely related to the mysterious incomplete technique. Without the help of the incomplete technique, not to mention integrating two types of spiritual thunder, even one type of spiritual thunder would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Otherwise, Du Xiaofu would not have been the only one to obtain this spiritual thunder in the Hehuan school. Then, the silver lightning tree transformed into a wave of energy that surged into Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit, causing the surface of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit to be filled with dazzling yellow lightning. At the same time, it caused the aura of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit to skyrocket. This spiritual thunder was comparable to the martial domain realm. It made it so that martial domain realm cultivators and 9 star soul symbol masters were unable to integrate and refine it. Its soul seed was equivalent to the primordial spirit of a human or beast clan cultivator. The energy contained within it was enormous. At this moment, as Du Xiaofu refined it, it was also obtained by Du Xiaofu. As the spiritual thunder was integrated and refined, the lightning turtle gradually became smaller. The aura of Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit became stronger and stronger. The yellow lightning on his primordial spirit also became more and more dazzling and resplendent. Time slowed down once again, and the space once again fell into a kind of silence. It was likely that after the soul seed lightning turtle was completely refined, Du Xiaofu's body would undergo another earth-shaking transformation. And the next transformation would come from Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. No one knew what kind of changes would occur when two types of spiritual thunder were integrated into one's body. After all, in this world, there were no records of anyone who had the talent to be able to integrate two types of spiritual thunder into one. And now, Du Xiaofu was gradually integrating two types of spiritual thunder into one in this underground space. Chapter 1197. Translator. H2DH2 Mr. Time passed just like that. Du Xiaofu was also immersed in a state of selflessness. In this state of selflessness, a 9-petaled lotus flower had appeared under Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. It was a purple lotus flower that rippled with electric arcs. It was crystal clear and had a total of 9 leaves. The lotus flower was crystal clear, as if it was formed from the most perfect purple spirit jade in the world. It was natural and beautiful. However, the purple electric arcs rippling on the lotus flower were enough to make one's primordial spirit tremble. In the middle of the purple electric lotus flower, there was a smooth lotus platform. It was spotless and gave off an ancient aura. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit body was already sitting cross-legged on this lotus platform. The purple electric lotus floated and seemed to be supporting Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit body. This was the 9 Revolutions Divine Lei Lian. It was a treasure that Du Xiaofu had obtained back in Tianhuang mainland. It was very likely to be the third mysterious treasure of Jinlei Tensei. Although this 9 Revolutions Divine Lei Lian was not a treasure, it could help Du Xiaofu to understand the lightning mystique. It could allow Du Xiaofu to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Time continued to pass silently like this. At a certain moment, Du Xiaofu's mind suddenly trembled while he was completely unaware of it. His soul core's eyes opened up, and one of his eyes shone with dazzling yellow light while the other shone with dazzling silver light. At the same time, in the vast space outside, Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by purple gold, silver, and yellow electric arcs. Whoosh! The energy of heaven and earth came from nowhere and gathered in the surroundings. The energy of heaven and earth seeped into the space between Du Xiaofu's brows and finally into his Naiwen palace. In the Mudpill Palace, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit sat, cross-legged on the 9 Revolutions Divine Lei Lian. The tree of silver electric arcs was also infused with a bright yellow glow. His Yuan Shun's aura had been rising for a very long time. Waves of aura rippled out from Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace. These ripples were invisible to the naked eye, but they were getting more and more intense. Boom! Finally, this fluctuation reached its most intense state. As this intense fluctuation spread out, the vast space within the deep pit began to boil like boiling water. His aura was rising violently. The aura that emanated from Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace was like a dam that had been opened, pouring down in torrents. It whizzed out and continuously attacked the barrier. How powerful was the yellow light spiritual thunder? The energy on the soul seed had all gathered in Du Xiaofu's body. Although the enormous energy on the yellow light spiritual thunder soul seed had been refined by the mysterious incomplete cultivation method and had become increasingly pure, the energy that could be absorbed by Du Xiaofu at this moment was only 10 to 20% of the purest energy. Otherwise, if the energy contained in the yellow light spiritual thunder soul seed was absorbed by Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit, no matter how powerful Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit was, it would not be able to withstand the self-destruction. No matter how large a lake was, it could not accept a vast ocean. However, the yellow light spiritual thunder was so powerful that it was comparable to a martial domain realm or a 9-star spiritual talisman master. Even after being refined by the mysterious incomplete cultivation method, Du Xiaofu was able to absorb 10 to 20% of the surging energy contained in the soul seed. It was still shocking. In terms of primordial spirit power, a 9-star spiritual talisman master was comparable to 10 8-star nirvana spiritual talisman masters. Rumble. In the space of the deep pit, the surrounding energy of heaven and earth was violent, causing the space to shake and tremble. An invisible aura swept out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. Then, the vast primordial spirit power also rushed out from between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows like a stormy sea. It shot up into the sky from the deep pit at lightning speed. Hula! The terrifying aura soared, and dazzling electric arcs filled the sky. The vast and majestic primordial spirit power spread out like a storm. The rising aura was too extraordinary and ancient. It was accompanied by the silver net soul devouring thunder, the yellow light spiritual thunder, and a terrifying spiritual root pressure. At this moment, if there were other spiritual talisman masters present, it was unknown how shocked they would be. The primordial spirit power had always been the most difficult to cultivate and increase. At this moment, the primordial spirit power that was spreading out from Du Xiaofu's body was so powerful that it could only be described as terrifying. This kind of pressure was enough to directly crush an ordinary person's primordial spirit. The most important thing was that Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit aura was soaring, continuously soaring. Under the frightening scene of the boiling space and lightning flashing and thunder rumbling, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit aura soared, driving Du Xiaofu's spiritual talisman master level aura to break through, but not continuously. This kind of continuous breaking speed was enough to make all spiritual talisman masters stunned and endlessly envious. It was continuously breaking through in a manner that was enough to make all spiritual talisman masters stunned and endlessly envious. In the space of the deep pit, yellow electric arcs and thunder violently swept across. Why is the spiritual thunder suddenly rioting? Damn it! The electric arcs filled the sky, and the terrifying aura surged violently. 3 graceful figures were swept up in it, resisting the terrifying electric arcs around them. These 3 beautiful figures were all very moving. One was charming, one was quiet and noble, and one was charming and noble, as if she could bewitch all living things. The 3 were Su Muxin, Tang Meiling, and Ji Jiyan. The 3 girls had fled from the Hahuan school to this talisman array, forbidden area, and suddenly, they were affected by the devastating electric arcs and thunderbolts. Su Muxin and Tang Meiling's strength were very strong, but at the moment, both of them were seriously injured. Under this terrifying aura fluctuation, the 2 girls still had to protect Ji Jiyan, so they could only protect themselves. Fortunately, these devastating electric arcs and thunderbolts were not specifically targeted at them. Something's not right. There's the silver net soul devouring thunder and the aura of the spiritual root. Could it be that he's not dead yet? Is he still alive? Su Muxin looked at the electric arcs that filled the sky. There were yellow electric arcs, purple gold electric arcs, and silver electric arcs, accompanied by the terrifying aura of the spiritual root. Immediately, her breathtaking beautiful face changed color. Whoosh! The defensive halo on her body protected Ji Jiyan, and Su Muxin's beautiful figure was wrapped in the energy formation halo and directly swept down into the space below. He's not dead yet. Could it be that Du Xiaofu, that little bastard, is still alive? The laughing Rakshasa and Tang Meiling were stunned when they heard this. Then, they wrapped themselves in the protective halo and followed after. The wind and clouds surged, and all the electric arcs seemed to have transformed into a huge whirlpool. A figure wrapped in electric arcs of various colors sat cross-legged in the middle of the whirlpool. It was like a miracle. The terrifying aura of the primordial spirit on his body soared like a rocket. Whoosh whoosh, 2 dazzling halos forcefully swept over, and 3 beautiful figures appeared outside the whirlpool. It was Su Muxin, Ji Jiyan, and the laughing Rakshasa and Tang Meiling. The terrifying aura of the primordial spirit spread out from the whirlpool, and Su Muxin and Tang Meiling's hearts trembled. The 3 women were stunned as they looked at the figure covered in lightning that looked like a divine miracle. This is impossible. How can the power of the primordial spirit be so strong? Tang Meiling looked at the figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of the whirlpool of electric arcs. Electric runes soared into the sky, and a powerful aura filled the air. The power of the primordial spirit stunned her. Suddenly, Tang Meiling seemed to have sensed something. She was stunned and couldn't help but cry out, "An 8-star extraordinary talisman master. That person's aura should have just broken through, but he's still breaking through to become an 8-star origin talisman master. Is he going to break through consecutively?" The laughing Rakshasa and Tang Meiling were shocked. At the level of an 8-star talisman master, it was extremely difficult to break through even one level, no matter how talented one was. Most people would find it difficult to break through even one level in their entire lives, let alone the perfected and extraordinary levels. But now, the aura of the figure covered in electric arcs clearly showed that he had just broken through to become an 8-star extraordinary talisman master. But now, he was still breaking through, and the momentum was not slowing down. It wasn't weak at all. Instead, it was getting more and more violent. Sumushin looked ahead. Her face was pale, and her eyes were rippling violently. Her aura was extremely weak. Under the protection of her master, Sumushin, Ji Jian's eyes were filled with hope amidst the shock. Whoosh! The aura of the figure continued to soar. Just as Tang Miling was dumbfounded, he broke through another bottleneck. 8-star origin talisman. Tang Miling's jaw dropped for a long time. At the level of a perfected 8-star extraordinary talisman master, there was actually someone who could break through consecutively. Chapter 1198. It was as if the cultivation bottlenecks that were as difficult as ascending to the heavens for ordinary people could be easily broken through by the lightning figure. A terrifying aura rippled in this vast space, and the storm of primordial spirit power continued to surge. In the lightning vortex, the aura of the miraculous lightning figure hovered at the peak of the 8-star primordial chaos realm. It seemed that he was going to continue breaking through. That guy can't still break through, right? How can he let others live? The laughing Rakshasa, Tang Miling, was helpless and dejected. What she saw today was definitely a big blow to her. If he can't resist the temptation of breaking through, it will only harm him in the future. It's no different from pulling up seedlings to help them grow. There's no benefit. Sumushin looked at the lightning figure in the vortex in front of her and frowned slightly. Her expression was extremely complicated, and a strange look flashed in her eyes. In the terrifying vortex, the lightning figure sitting cross-legged still had his aura at the peak of the 8-star primordial chaos realm. He didn't break through, and was even suppressing himself. That person seems to be blocking the breakthrough. He's suppressing himself. Tang Miling revealed a puzzled expression. Her eyes were also filled with shock. She knew very well that cultivators were simply unable to resist the enormous enticement and comfortable feeling brought about by a breakthrough. But now, the lightning figure in front of her had actually stopped under the great temptation of breaking through consecutively. He was even suppressing himself. What kind of self-control and mental state did this require? In the terrifying vortex, the lightning figure's aura was between the peak of the 8-star primordial chaos realm and the late 8-star primordial chaos realm, and even the middle 8-star primordial chaos realm. It was as if a tug of war had broken out. This tug of war lasted for a long time. In the end, the aura around the late 8-star primordial chaos realm subsided. The lightning vortex and primordial spirit storm that occupied this space finally dissipated under the dazzling runes, and finally, this space returned to relative calm. The lightning figure appeared in midair, and the lightning arcs on his body were restrained. In the void, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. Between his eyebrows, there was silver-yellow divine light of electric arcs. In his Niwen palace, the silver tree of electric arcs had disappeared. Only a purple 9-petaled lotus remained. Du Xiaofu's essence soul was wrapped in silver electric arcs and resplendent yellow electric arcs, forming a silver-yellow electric arc. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit body exuded an ancient aura, but it also contained violent destruction. Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit closed its eyes. A bright yellow lightning talisman appeared in his Niwen palace. It was a huge amount of information contained in the yellow lightning. As Du Xiaofu completely refined the yellow light spiritual thunder soul seed, this huge amount of information was also integrated into Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. In the space of the underground crater, there were still bright yellow electric arcs rippling all around. However, at this moment, these bright yellow electric arcs had already restrained their violence and destruction. They had become docile. Sumushin, the smiling Rakshasa, and Tang Miling felt the suppression greatly reduced. They looked at the figure in front of them, who was gradually withdrawing his electric arcs. Instantly, the three of them were shocked. The smiling Rakshasa, Tang Miling, was the most shocked. Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She exclaimed, "It's Du Xiaofu. He's not dead. He's even broken through to become an 8-star origin spiritual talisman master. Big Brother Da Bai isn't dead. He's still alive." Ji Zhiyin's eyes were filled with astonishment. Then, a look of joy appeared in her eyes. After a while, Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, closed his eyes and began to tremble slightly. The majestic pressure of the primordial spirit around him dissipated. Chi-Chi, then, he opened his eyes. A white divine light, accompanied by silver-yellow lightning, shot out from Du Xiaofu's eyes. What a powerful aura! It's enough to crush all 8-star origin spiritual talisman masters. Tang Meiling was shocked. She could feel the terrifying aura from the body that was sitting cross-legged. It was not something that could be compared to those of the same level of cultivation. It was enough to crush those of the same level of cultivation. At this moment, as the terrifying aura spread, even she felt an inexplicable pressure. There was even a faint sense of fear. The silver-yellow electric arcs shot out from Du Xiaofu's eyes. Then, they dissipated into his eyes and became clear again. 8-star origin spiritual talisman, earth-shattering thunder. Du Xiaofu stood up. He felt the changes in his Niwen palace, and a smile appeared on his face. After a desperate situation where he almost died, there was still a way out. In the end, he fused 2 types of spiritual lightning. Under the immense power of the lightning, he took the opportunity to break through from a perfected 8-star origin spiritual talisman master to a late-stage 8-star origin spiritual talisman master. This leap was like crossing a heavenly moat. Under the immense power of the lightning, there were still signs of a breakthrough. However, the successive breakthroughs were stopped by Du Xiaofu. When one reached the level of a perfected 8-star origin spiritual talisman master, the leap was huge. The successive breakthroughs made Du Xiaofu very clear about the consequences of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. The strength and joy brought about by a temporary surge in cultivation couldn't make up for the side effects brought about by the never-ending path of the strong. Therefore, Du Xiaofu maintained the last trace of clarity during the breakthrough and forcibly suppressed it. Under Du Xiaofu's refining, the majestic energy that had gathered in his body was condensed again. It even overflowed into his body and stopped from continuing to break through. As for the yellow spiritual lightning, after the final fusion, Du Xiaofu also learned a lot of information from his soul seed. That was the great earth-shattering thunder, which came from the vast earth. After countless years of silence, it absorbed the thunder and lightning left behind by the violent storms, lightning flashes, and thunder, and finally gathered together. By chance, those lightning bolts had obtained a fortuitous encounter and developed intelligence. They turned into the heavenly earth-shattering thunder, which was a type of spiritual thunder. This earth-shattering thunder was finally captured by the ancestors of the Hahuan school. However, none of the experts of the Hahuan school could fuse with it. They could only set up a talisman array to bind and suppress it. This imprisonment had trapped the earth-shattering thunder for 2,000 years. It seems to have changed. Peering into his body, Du Xiaofu felt that the body of the primordial spirit in his Niwen palace had reached a higher level, whether in terms of the pressure or the intensity. More importantly, the soul seeds of the silver net soul devouring thunder and the earth-shattering thunder had been fused together, and there was a new aura. Du Xiaofu even felt that the body of his primordial spirit had already fused with the spiritual root that he could not fuse with before. The talisman inscriptions of the spiritual root were like a light net that covered the primordial spirit, releasing a faint fluorescent light. It was as if the primordial spirit was wearing a light cloth. Du Xiaofu could clearly feel the powerful aura emanating from the primordial spirit. Compared to before, the primordial spirit seemed to have undergone a metamorphosis. At this moment, just the power and energy contained in the primordial spirit alone made Du Xiaofu feel that he had the confidence to fight against the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling, from the Hahuan school. At this moment, the soul seeds of the silver net soul devouring thunder and the earth-shattering thunder had fused into one. In addition to the fusion of the spiritual root, Du Xiaofu did not know how powerful the primordial spirit would be in the end. He was full of anticipation. But there was no doubt that the fusion of the two spiritual thunders, in addition to the spiritual root, made Du Xiaofu feel ferocious and intimidating under this metamorphosis. The peak of transcendent martial venerable, the divine body refining realm, few. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath, and a smile appeared on his face. In terms of spiritual talisman master, he had reached the late 8-star origin realm and was not far from the nirvana realm. In terms of martial arts, with the successive breakthroughs in the spiritual talisman master level, they complemented each other. The spiritual talisman master level nourished martial arts, and once again, martial arts received great benefits. He had just broken through to the transcendent realm, and now he had reached the peak of the transcendent realm and was close to the origin realm. At the transcendent martial venerable level, he had just broken through to the peak of the transcendent realm. It seemed that there was not much difference, but there was a huge gap between them. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body had also reached the third level of the golden-winged rock body refining technique. His whole body was crystal clear and filled with a purple-gold color. This time, he had consumed the blood of the azure dragon and the blood essence of many evil beasts on the heavenly beasts list. He had refined his bones and washed his marrow to the extreme, and finally, his body had reached the last level of the divine body refining realm. This was another metamorphosis in his body. At the original level of Du Xiaofu's body, he had cultivated the golden-winged rock body refining technique, and his body was already terrifying. Later, under the purple-gold Xian thunder in the purple thunder profound cauldron, he had forged the indestructible Xian body. It was extremely difficult to strengthen his body. Now that he had stepped into the divine body refining realm, his body had strengthened and transformed again. Just the combat strength of his body alone was enough to strengthen Du Xiaofu by a large margin. One who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune in the future. His character is not bad. In the void, Du Xiaofu stood up and stretched slightly. The crisp sound of joints and bones could be heard. Phew! A mouthful of turbid air was then spat out from his throat, and the vibrations caused the space to tremble. Feeling the vast and mighty Xian qi in his body, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with a smile. At this moment, he was a late-stage 8-star origin spiritual talisman master and a peak transcendent martial venerable. Compared to when he had entered this space, his strength was more than just the difference between heaven and earth. Chapter 1199. Translator. H2 Mr. Du Xiaofu felt as if he could shatter space with just a wave of his hand. Even if he faced a nirvana martial sovereign, he would not need to retreat. Du Xiaofu was overjoyed by the transformation this time. He was trapped in the terrifying great earth crumbling thunder and was in a desperate situation. He had a slim chance of survival and was close to being destroyed. However, in the end, he still had such an opportunity. Du Xiaofu was unable to measure the magnitude of this opportunity. However, just the breakthrough in his cultivation this time was enough for Du Xiaofu to understand in his heart. It could be said that just the improvement in his cultivation this time was something that he might not be able to achieve in 10 years, or even 10 years if he were to cultivate on his own outside. Qi! Suddenly, Du Xiaofu raised his head. His eyes suddenly surged with a bright light as he stared intently at the three beautiful figures in front of him. Tang Meiling, Ji Jiyan. Du Xiaofu's figure shot out from the sea of lightning. In a flash, he appeared in front of the three women. Other than Tang Meiling and Ji Jiyan, there was an extremely beautiful woman in the middle. She was so enchanting that her beauty was soul-stirring. Qila, without any hesitation, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared. Amidst the sea of lightning and arcs, lightning runes brought about an arc of lightning. They converged into two thunderbolts and instantly collided with Tang Meiling and Su Muxin. Little bastard! Following Du Xiaofu's sudden attack, Tang Meiling immediately turned pale and cursed loudly. The yellow thunderbolt shocked her in her weakened state. She immediately activated an energy pillar to defend herself. Su Muxin frowned slightly. She watched as the thunderbolt swept over. With a wave of her hand, a light screen blocked in front of her. Boom! The yellow thunderbolt exploded. It was the great earth crumbling thunder. It shook Su Muxin and Tang Meiling, causing their figures to tremble. Qila, almost at the same time, Du Xiaofu appeared in front of Ji Jiyan. With a wave of his hand, he pulled Ji Jian away from the beautiful woman. Su Muxin's beautiful figure trembled. Her eyes secretly trembled, revealing a bit of emptiness and faintness, but she didn't stop him. "Are you okay?" Du Xiaofu pulled Ji Jian and retreated dozens of feet away, his eyes filled with worry. But seeing that Ji Jian was unscathed except for some injuries and weakness, Du Xiaofu felt relieved. "Big brother Dabai, I'm fine. I knew you'd be fine." Looking at the young man in front of her, Ji Jian was so excited that she couldn't believe it. Then, for some reason, she suddenly lowered her head. Her beautiful face was flushed red, and she was so shy that she looked like she was about to cry. Du Xiaofu noticed Ji Jian's reaction, but he didn't take it to heart. At this moment, Tang Meiling was here, and she was an absolute powerhouse. And that beautiful woman also seemed familiar. Compared to Tang Meiling, she was probably more difficult to deal with. Du Xiaofu's eyes were fixed on Tang Meiling, filled with coldness. Originally, he didn't have a good impression of the Hahuan school. This time, he was almost killed by the Hahuan school. One could imagine how Du Xiaofu was feeling right now. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Su Muxin's eyes shone brightly on her pale face. Then, she glanced at Du Xiaofu and lowered her eyes slightly. On the other hand, Tang Meiling looked at Du Xiaofu with shock in her eyes. Then, she looked at him with interest. Her eyes were filled with astonishment, and a strange smile appeared on her lips. She said, "You have some capital. It seems that you're not in a good situation." Du Xiaofu said coldly. He could see at a glance that Tang Meiling and the beautiful woman were in a bad situation. Tang Meiling and the beautiful woman were like arrows at the end of their flight. On the other hand, he had just made a breakthrough, and his strength had skyrocketed. He definitely had a chance to suppress them. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling's strange smile immediately disappeared. She recalled what happened back then, and immediately looked at Du Xiaofu with anger. She gritted her teeth and said, "Hateful brat, I said that if you fell into my hands again, I would definitely teach that brat a lesson. How dare he lie to me? Hateful. Do you think you still have the strength to do so?" Du Xiaofu sneered, his eyes filled with golden light. He stretched out his hand from the yellow lightning arc, and a purple-gold lightning arc suddenly streaked across the air and appeared in his palm. Roar! The purple-gold lightning arc faintly carried the roars of dragons, tigers, birds, and turtles. In the end, it turned into a shocking divine weapon. It was the purple-gold heavenly tower. The purple-gold heavenly tower was no longer bound after Du Xiaofu refined the heavenly tower of earth. It naturally returned to Du Xiaofu's hand. Even if you want to fight, you should at least put on some clothes first. Do you think being naked will increase your battle prowess? Su Muxin raised her eyes slightly to look at Du Xiaofu. Her eyes secretly flickered with some soul-stirring power, but she did not look directly at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu was confused when he heard that. He lowered his head to look at himself, and his expression immediately changed drastically. At this moment, Du Xiaofu finally walked out from the joy of escaping death and making a breakthrough. Only then did he realize that the clothes on his body had been destroyed into ashes by the earth-shattering thunder. At this moment, he was clean and naked. Holy shit! Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's expression changed drastically. A smear of redness crept onto his face. Most importantly, Du Xiaofu discovered that he was now naked and naked. All of his pouches of cosmos had been destroyed, so he could not find any clothes to cover his body. Facing the three women, Du Xiaofu's face flushed red in embarrassment. He could only use the purple-gold heavenly tower of earth to cover the important parts of his body. Ji Jian stood behind Du Xiaofu. She was even more bashful at that moment. Her face was completely red, and she lowered her head, not daring to look directly at him. He does have some capital. It's just that I didn't expect the Demon King Du Xiaofu to actually like to play naked. If this were to spread out, I'm afraid it would definitely shock the 9 provinces. Tang Meiling stared straight at Du Xiaofu, sizing him up with interest. The smile in her eyes rippled with lust. It was alluring. Put it on. Su Muxin frowned slightly. After hesitating for a moment, she waved her hand and threw a dark purple robe to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had no other choice. A suction force gushed out from his palm, and immediately sucked the robe into his hand. Dazzling lightning arcs erupted from his body, dazzling the eyes of others and making it difficult to pry into his body. As the lightning gradually dissipated, the void was completely empty. Everything had disappeared. Where's that little bastard? Why did he disappear? As the lightning dissipated, Tang Miling's beautiful eyes were filled with doubt. After the dazzling lightning dissipated, Du Xiaofu's figure also disappeared. Not good. Almost at the same time as Tang Miling's voice came out, Su Muxin's beautiful eyes immediately changed. Her aura suddenly soared into the sky and swept out in all directions. Crackle. At the same time, in the surrounding space, a large amount of purple-gold lightning arcs suddenly rippled and poured down. Accompanied by a terrifying aura of destruction, it filled the surrounding space. The aura of the purple-gold lightning arcs caused Su Muxin and Tang Miling's eyes to suddenly reveal a serious expression. All of this was within Su Muxin and Tang Miling's expectations. Quietly, in a moment of panic, a huge object filled with a terrifying aura covered the entire space and suddenly enveloped the entire area. Swish! Before Su Muxin and Tang Miling could react, the two girls were enveloped by a huge purple-gold cauldron. As the purple-gold cauldron rotated, it shrank to the size of a palm and hovered in front of Ji Jiyin. That terrifying aura caused Ji Jiyin's eyes to be filled with shock. Du Xiaofu, who had just disappeared, also appeared from the surrounding yellow lightning arcs. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was wearing a dark purple robe. Although it was a little tight, it was still a good fit, causing his tall and straight body to become even more sturdy. Humph! With a wave of his hand, the purple lightning profound cauldron hovered in his palm. Du Xiaofu's embarrassed and flushed face still had a faint blush on it. The purple lightning profound cauldron's aura was originally forcefully isolated by the earth-shattering thunder, causing Du Xiaofu to be unable to control it. However, at this moment, it had once again returned to Du Xiaofu's hands. Chapter 1200. Ji Jiyin snapped out of her daze. Seeing the scene before her, she guessed that her master and martial uncle were probably already trapped. She turned to Du Xiaofu and said loudly, "Big brother Dabai, don't hurt my master and martial uncle." "Your master and martial uncle?" Du Xiaofu stared at Ji Jiyin in surprise. "Big brother Dabai, it's like this." Ji Jiyin immediately told Du Xiaofu everything that had happened afterwards. She said, "Master is actually a good person." Zhao Lu had always been suspicious of Master's true identity. Later on, the spy Zhao Lu had arranged finally discovered that Master was actually a girl, and not a virgin at that. She then used Hao Huan School's rules to suppress Master. Under Ji Jiyin's hurried narration, Du Xiaofu finally understood the gist of the situation. In summary, Su Muxin was actually a girl, and had been dressing as a boy in Hao Huan School all this time, keeping the entire Shangzhou in the dark. Hao Huan School had two factions. One was the school master faction led by Su Muxin, and the other was the school supervisor faction led by Zhao Lu. The school master faction led by Su Muxin was left behind by Su Muxin's master, the previous schoolmaster. This previous Hao Huan School schoolmaster had already left Hao Huan School more than 10 years ago. It was said that he had gone in search of the legendary Qinyang subduing dragon skill, and thus his whereabouts had always been unknown. Zhao Lu had set her sights on the Hao Huan School schoolmaster position. With the secret support of some of the Grand Elders, she finally found an excuse this time. She used the excuse that Du Xiaofu had obtained the Qinyang subduing dragon skill and escaped from Su Muxin's grasp. Later on, she discovered that Su Muxin was a girl, and that she was no longer a virgin. According to the Hao Huan School's rules, Su Muxin could no longer become the schoolmaster. Although Hao Huan School had many dual cultivation techniques, as the schoolmaster of Hao Huan School, she had to maintain her virginity. Once she was no longer a virgin, no matter how strong she was, she could not become the Hao Huan School schoolmaster. Zhao Lu had her means. After learning that Su Muxin was a girl, she also discovered that Su Muxin was no longer a virgin. She immediately arranged for the Grand Elders to vote to revoke Su Muxin's position as the schoolmaster and send her to prison. In the prison, Zhao Lu had some misgivings. After all, the previous schoolmaster might still be alive. He was a strong person in Hao Huan School. To prevent any mishaps in the future, she wanted to completely eliminate all future troubles. She found an excuse to cripple Su Muxin's strength first. As the schoolmaster of Hahuan School, Su Muxin was a dual cultivator of martial arts and talisman. She knew the prison talisman formation like the back of her hand. Even though Zhao Lu had secretly arranged a lot of things, she could not stop Su Muxin. In the end, she escaped to the talisman formation that Du Xiaofu had been forced to enter to seal the earth-shattering thunder. In that case, Su Muxin is a girl. Now the Hahuan School is in internal strife. When Du Xiaofu heard this, his eyes turned. When he heard that Su Muxin was a girl, he felt that something was wrong. However, when he thought about it carefully, he could not think of anything. Soon after, a smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's resolute and determined face. Apart from being surprised that Su Muxin was a girl, when Du Xiaofu saw Su Muxin's fate, he could not help but feel that he had gotten his revenge. He was secretly delighted. Big brother Dabai, don't hate my master. In fact, my master is really a good person. Even before you were trapped and escaped, my master had promised me that as long as you handed over the Qinyang subduing dragon art, he would definitely ensure that you leave safely. Master threw you into the heavenly prison to scare you and make you hand over the Qinyang subduing dragon art. Ji Jian said worriedly to Du Xiaofu. When she saw Du Xiaofu's delighted expression, she knew that Du Xiaofu was rejoicing in her misfortune. Is that so? Du Xiaofu raised his brows and frowned. However, Du Xiaofu was also very unhappy that he had been chased by Su Muxin for so long on the Tianhuang mainland. However, compared to his previous displeasure, Du Xiaofu was much more relieved now. After all, Su Muxin was a girl and was also Ji Jian's master. Big brother Dabai, hurry and let master and martial uncle out. Martial uncle and master were already severely injured in order to protect me. They can't be injured anymore. Ji Jian's face was full of worry. She was afraid that Du Xiaofu would make Su Muxin and Tang Meiling suffer. After hearing Ji Jian's words, Du Xiaofu could only smile helplessly. Finally, he formed a hand seal and the purple thunder profound cauldron revolved in his palm. As the purple thunder profound cauldron gradually expanded, two beautiful figures appeared under the purple thunder profound cauldron. These two people were naturally Su Muxin and Tang Meiling. However, at this moment, the beautiful and seductive woman's hair was disheveled. Their hair was disheveled, and they were covered in purple gold lightning aura. It seemed that the two of them must have suffered a little in the purple thunder profound cauldron just now. Little bastard, I'm not done with you. As soon as she came out of the purple thunder profound cauldron, the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling, immediately jumped up in anger. She glared at Du Xiaofu and looked like she was going to fight to the death with Du Xiaofu. Martial uncle, don't. Let's talk things over. Ji Jian was afraid that something else would happen and immediately pulled Tang Meiling back. At this moment, Su Muxin's eyes were fixed on the purple thunder profound cauldron that Du Xiaofu had put into his body. Her eyes were filled with surprise. I say, big sister Tang, you are already an arrow at the end of its flight. You can't do anything to me now. If you attack me again, I won't be so nice. After putting away the purple thunder profound cauldron without leaving a trace, Du Xiaofu looked at Tang Meiling with a faint smile. With his current cultivation and control of everything in the space, Du Xiaofu now had absolute confidence that he didn't need to fear the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling. Stinking brat, you. The laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling, heard Du Xiaofu's blunt words and gritted her teeth. Just as she was about to jump up and say something, Su Muxin signaled her to keep quiet. Su Muxin looked at Du Xiaofu. Her fair face was like jade. Although her face was pale, the shape of her beautiful lips seemed to always show off a kind of nobility and elegance that was completely different from her seductive aura. Su Muxin looked at Du Xiaofu and said, even if we're injured and you seem to have fused with the earth-collapsing thunder, you might not be able to do anything to us. Du Xiaofu nodded and said, even if we're injured and you seem to have merged with the earth-collapsing thunder, you might not be able to do anything to us. Pausing for a moment, Su Muxin lifted her head slightly and looked at Du Xiaofu. Her deathly pale face still carried a soul-stirring charm, as if it was a natural allure. Her voice was also soft and enchanting as she continued, given your current cultivation, it seems that you have made great progress. However, you have merged with the sky-shattering earth thunder and may also possess the Qinyang dragon subduing art. Once you leave this place, Zhao Lu will definitely not let you off, and you will not be able to leave the all-pleasure sect. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he frowned. Su Muxin's words made sense. Although his strength had increased a lot, it wouldn't be easy for him to walk out of the Hahuan school. Merging with the earth-shattering thunder? This bastard brat's luck is pretty good. Tang Meiling curled her lips. She naturally knew how great of an opportunity it was to merge with a spiritual thunder. However, Tang Meiling didn't know that Du Xiaofu had 3 types of spiritual thunder in his body. Moreover, he had merged with 2 types of spiritual thunder himself. If Tang Meiling found out, who knew how shocked she would be? She would probably be so shocked that she wouldn't be able to recover from the setback. Don't threaten me. I'm not the same as before. It's not impossible for me to leave now. After a while, Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and said to Su Muxin. Although it was risky to rely on the trump cards, he had to leave the Haihuan school quietly. It wasn't impossible. You can try. I know you have a lot of tricks up your sleeves, but if the Haihuan school could let you leave so easily, it would have been swallowed up by other forces in the past few years, Su Muxin said. Master, Big Brother Dabai, we're in the same boat now. Let's think of a way to leave first. Ji Jian immediately stood between Su Muxin and Du Xiaofu, afraid that Du Xiaofu and Su Muxin would fight again. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. They were indeed in the same boat now. If he joined forces with Su Muxin, their chances of leaving the Hahuan school would be much higher. Chapter 1201. With Ji Jian in the middle, Du Xiaofu could somewhat trust Su Muxin at this moment. What do you all plan to do now? After a while, Du Xiaofu looked at Su Muxin and the laughing Rakshasa Tang Meiling and asked, When my master returns to the sect, it will be time for those people to suffer. The laughing Rakshasa Tang Meiling glared viciously at Du Xiaofu, as if tacitly agreeing that they were all in the same boat and could temporarily work together. Du Xiaofu had already gotten a general idea of the situation regarding Tang Meiling and Su Muxin's master from Ji Jian earlier. Hearing Tang Meiling's words, he smiled faintly and said, We still don't know when your master will return. Even if he does, Hahuan school would already be in the hands of that Zhao Lu. Do you think she would know about you all, much less know that you all are here right now? Who knows? They might even dare to make a move against your master when the time comes. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Tang Meiling gritted her teeth in anger. However, she knew that Du Xiaofu's words made sense, and she had no way to refute them. He's right. Zhao Lu is already in control of Hahuan school. Even if master returns, everything will change. No one knows what will happen. Su Muxin said to Tang Meiling. Then, she turned to look at Du Xiaofu, a complicated, bottomless look in her eyes. After a while, she asked Du Xiaofu, Do you have any plans? Could it be that the position of Hahuan school head can be snatched away just like that? Du Xiaofu asked Su Muxin after a moment's thought. Su Muxin replied, Hahuan school has a council of elders. Over the years, Zhao Lu has roped in quite a few elders. The council of elders' decisions carry a lot of weight. This time, Zhao Lu arranged for the council of elders to vote. More than half of the elders have already colluded with her. Hearing Su Muxin's words, Tang Meiling looked at Du Xiaofu and said, Actually, this is also related to another fight over Hahuan school 20 years ago. Is it related to what happened 20 years ago? Du Xiaofu's brow furrowed. Tang Meiling didn't say anything else. Instead, she looked at Su Muxin as if she was asking for her opinion. Amidst Su Muxin's charm and nobility, she quietly revealed a complicated expression that was difficult to detect. Her clear eyes were blurred and covered in a faint shadow. She nodded to Tang Meiling and said, He possesses the Qinyang subduing dragon art, so he's more or less involved in this matter. There's no harm in letting him know. Tang Meiling rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu and said, Ever since Hahuan school was founded, only those who cultivated the heaven and earth dragon tiger art could become the school head and supervisor. It's a heaven-level cultivation technique. But 2,000 years ago, for some unknown reason, the ancestors of Hahuan school split the heaven and earth dragon tiger art into 2, the Qinyang subduing dragon art and the Kuren-in subduing tiger art. Legend has it that the ancestors of Hahuan school placed the Qianyang subduing dragon art in Mount Cloudy Rain. There are also rumors that it's in other places, but no one has been able to find it in the past 2,000 years. Pausing for a moment, Tang Meiling pursed her red lips and rolled her eyes at Du Xiaofu. She continued, because the heaven and earth dragon tiger art was split into two, only leaving behind the Kuren-in subduing tiger art, its power was greatly reduced. This also caused the Hahuan school's strength to decline over the past 2,000 years. 2,000 years ago, the Hahuan school was located in Shangzhou. Even the Sa Ming sword sect feared it. Otherwise, that brat Mu Jianxin from the Sa Ming sword sect wouldn't have dared to come to my Hahuan school in such a threatening manner and demand that the Hahuan school hand you over. You're saying that the Sa Ming sword sect's Mu Jianxin went to the Hahuan school to find me? Du Xiaofu was very surprised. His mind turned. The Sa Ming sword sect was indeed located in Shangzhou. Back in Tianhuang continent, they didn't have much of a relationship with Mu Jianxin. They were only one of the 12 godly heroes in the outside world. That Mu Jianxin of the Sa Ming sword sect brought many experts from the Sa Ming sword sect into the Hahuan school. In the end, he even injured an elder from the Manchu. He said that you were also one of the 12 godly heroes and that you were the leader. Whoever in the Hahuan school dared to touch you would be making an enemy out of him and the Sa Ming sword sect. He only left after Zhao Lu and the others lied to him that you left, Jijian said to Du Xiaofu with certainty. She also knew about this matter. Sa Ming sword sect's Mu Jianxin. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly. Ripples appeared in his eyes as he committed this person to memory. Tang Meiling glanced at Du Xiaofu and continued. After the heaven and earth dragon tiger technique was split into two, the power of the Kuan-in taming tiger technique was greatly reduced. The strength of the He Huan sect has been faintly weakening, and they have been unable to find a way to combine the heaven and earth dragon tiger technique to form the heaven level technique, heaven and earth dragon tiger technique. Therefore, more than 20 years ago, someone suggested that the sect rules be changed to another dual cultivation technique, the yin-yang harmony technique. This technique is second only to the heaven and earth dragon tiger technique in the He Huan sect. Although it has not truly reached the heaven level, it is said that it is the closest to it. About 40 years ago, Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo both used the yin-yang harmony technique and stood out among their peers. They suppressed their peers and were the first to become martial honors and 8-star spirit talisman masters. Therefore, under the influence of some people, 20 years later, which is about 20 years ago, the elders agreed to change the sect rules. From now on, the yin-yang harmony technique will be the sect leader's cultivation technique and Zhao Lu will be the next sect leader. I see. After listening to Tang Meiling's words, Du Xiaofu roughly understood the grudges between them. He then asked curiously, since the elders had already agreed, why didn't Zhao Lu become the overlord? That's because the overlord of the Hahuan school, who is also my junior sister's master, had a very high status in the Manchu. She had a fiery temper and severely injured an elder on the spot. She objected, but the elders refused to let it go. In the end, they decided to let the younger generation compete for the position of the overlord. Whoever is stronger will become the next overlord. The elders were confident and thus agreed. Tang Meiling revealed a charming smile and proudly said, however, Zhao Lu never expected that my master had already known what those people were thinking. She was unwilling to change the rules left behind by the Manchu's ancestors and secretly nurtured my junior sister. My junior sister's talent was peerless. She cultivated both the martial path and talisman path. Her martial path was a supreme talent, while her talisman path was also a supreme spiritual root. She also secretly cultivated the Kuan-in tiger subduing technique and hid her true strength for more than 10 years in the Manchu. Licking her dry lips, Tang Meiling proudly said, on the day of the competition, my junior sister revealed her true strength and defeated Zhao Lu, who thought that victory was in her grasp. In the end, with master's support, she became the next overlord. In order to find the Qianyang dragon subduing technique, master abdicated and left the Hahuan school to search for it. All these years, there was no news. However, Zhao Lu and the others did not give up and secretly arranged to seize the position of overlord. This time, They took the opportunity to make trouble and discovered that my junior sister was no longer a virgin. Therefore, under their arrangement, the elders decided to abdicate my junior sister's position and let Zhao Lu become the Hahuan school's overlord. At this point, she subconsciously looked at Su Muxin and did not say anything. As her senior sister, Tang Meiling was also very curious. When exactly did her junior sister lose her virginity? In the entire Shangzhou, she had never seen or felt that her junior sister was interested in anyone of the same generation. Su Muxin slightly bit her teeth and lips. Her eyes were a little blurred. She looked at the youth in front of her who was still wearing the long robe she wore. Everything happened in the illusory realm. He probably did not even know. Originally, she thought that she would never have anything to do with him in this life. Who knew that fate would make fools of people? The will of heaven was unpredictable. In the end, they were entangled together like this. Su Muxin sighed and lowered her eyes. Who would have thought that the world would be so strange? In other words, you are powerless to reverse the situation. Even if you kill Zhao Lu, you will not be able to take the position of overlord? Du Xiaofu said with a frown. You can say that. Tang Meiling nodded at Du Xiaofu. The Hahuan school had its own rules. Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo cultivated the yin-yang combination technique. Naturally, they could become the overlord. This time, when she fought with Zhao Lu, her junior sister also exposed that she cultivated the Kuan tiger subduing technique and was not a virgin. Naturally, she could not become the overlord. Moreover, the elders of the Hahuan school had already made their decision. Even if they defeated Zhao Lu, they would not be able to reverse the situation. Even if Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo were alone, they would not be able to do anything to her junior sister. However, Tang Meiling knew that if Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo were to join forces, they would be able to suppress her junior sister. I believe that the Hahuan school must have hidden experts. Don't they care about anything? Du Xiaofu asked. When he was in the Hahuan school, he felt many hidden auras. Among them, there were at least 2 martial domain realm auras. They should be the hidden experts of the Hahuan school. Chapter 1202. Tang Meiling hesitated for a moment, then said to Du Xiaofu, I'll tell you the truth. My Hahuan school was extremely powerful in the past. It wasn't much weaker than the Saman Sword sect. There were many martial domain realm and 9-star talisman masters in the Manchu back then. Other than those who died due to the Great Limit, there was also a martial domain realm elder and a 9-star talisman master several hundred years ago. They entered this place to fuse with the great earth crumbling thunder and never returned. There are still 5 martial domain realm and 9-star talisman masters in the Manchu, including my master. However, my master isn't in the Manchu right now. There are also the 2 oldest grand elders. It's said that they haven't appeared in the past 1,000 years. I don't know if they have the great limit. At their cultivation level, they only want to improve and search for opportunities everywhere. They won't show themselves in the Manchu at all. As for who should be the school master, even if they know, they won't interfere. Tang Meiling's beautiful eyes narrowed as she said, the other martial domain realm elder and 9-star talisman master are Zhao Lu's masters. This is troublesome. Du Xiaofu was depressed. He already knew the situation from Tang Meiling's words. In the Hahuan sect, Zhao Lu already had everything under control. The 2 people above her who could restrain her were her master, and the group of elders had also been controlled. Su Muxin no longer had a chance to retaliate. As long as we leave the Hahuan school, we'll have a chance to find my master. The elder group doesn't listen to Zhao Lu all the time. Some of them are still observing. Many of them have been secretly locked up in a prison by Zhao Lu. She's afraid that there will be an accident during the elder group's vote. Otherwise, Zhao Lu wouldn't have had absolute confidence in the elder group's vote back then, Su Muxin said. No matter what, leaving the Hahuan school is the most important thing now, Du Xiaofu said. The most important thing now was to leave the Hahuan school. Du Xiaofu, do you have the real Qinyang subduing dragon art on you? Tang Meiling looked at Du Xiaofu and asked. She recalled how she was tricked by this brat in the prison with the fake Qinyang subduing dragon art. Du Xiaofu hesitated. He did have the real Qinyang subduing dragon art, but he didn't know if he should completely trust Su Muxin and the Grand Elder's words. One must always be on guard against others, not to mention that they were still in the He Huan sect. Sigh. Tang Meiling sighed softly. She glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "It's useless even if you have the real Qinyang subduing dragon art. Although junior sister has practiced the Kuan Yin subduing tiger art, it's not. So even if you have the real Qinyang subduing dragon art, it's useless. Let's recuperate first. When I recover, we might have a chance to leave. After all, they probably think that we're dead. They're in the light now, and we're in the dark." Su Muxin said calmly. Damn it. Zhao Lu obviously snatched the position of sect leader, but she still wants to spread the news and invite all the major forces to the Hahuan school to watch the ceremony. It should be a few days later. Tang Meiling said hatefully. It was obvious that she was very unhappy. She stamped her feet slightly, and her graceful curves were exquisite and alluring. Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly flickered, as if he had sensed something. Then, a misty light mist gushed out from between his eyebrows, spreading out circles of spatial ripples with an ancient and boundless aura. He said to Su Muxin, Tang Meiling, and Ji Jian, "Come in here and recuperate. It'll be faster." "You little bastard, not a single word you say is true. Why should I believe you?" Tang Meiling didn't dare to believe Du Xiaofu. She still hadn't forgotten how she was tricked last time. She was afraid that Du Xiaofu didn't have good intentions towards them. "Martial Ant, believe in Big Brother Dubai. He won't do anything to us." Ji Jian smiled at Tang Meiling. Then, she walked directly into the rippling spatial ripples. Su Muxin glanced at Du Xiaofu. She tapped her feet lightly, and her graceful figure instantly drew an alluring arc as she entered the spatial ripples. "Humph, if you dare to lie to me again, I won't let you off." Tang Meiling pouted. After glaring at Du Xiaofu, she also entered the spatial ripples. Du Xiaofu's brows twitched slightly. At this moment, everyone was indeed in the same boat. Without Su Muxin and Tang Meiling's help, it would be somewhat risky for him to leave the Hahuan school. Therefore, Du Xiaofu also hoped that Tang Meiling and Su Muxin would recover from their injuries as soon as possible. If the experts of the Hahuan school sensed that the heavenly earth-shattering thunder had been fused, they would probably directly enter this place. Du Xiaofu put away the ancient, desolate space. His eyes were filled with doubt as he muttered, "Why is there still someone here?" At the same time, Du Xiaofu's figure also disappeared from the spot. This deep underground space was originally the lair of the heavenly earth-shattering thunder. Resplendent yellow electric arcs could be seen everywhere. Crackle. Occasionally, electric arcs would gather and shuttle back and forth in the sea of electric arcs. However, after Du Xiaofu had fused with the heavenly earth-shattering thunder, the dense yellow electric arcs were no longer destructive and violent. Especially when Du Xiaofu's figure passed by, the yellow electric arcs automatically separated. Du Xiaofu's figure swooped down all the way. At this moment, when he carefully observed, he discovered that this underground space was so deep that it seemed as if it really led to the nine hells. After half an hour, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of a sea of surging yellow electric arcs. The yellow electric arcs here were even more powerful, and they still carried a violent and destructive aura. "This isn't normal." Du Xiaofu's eyes revealed a look of doubt. With a wave of his sleeve, the bright yellow electric arcs in front of him suddenly split into two, and a small cave appeared in front of Du Xiaofu's eyes. There were no restrictions set up in the cave, and it was filled with a sea of bright yellow electric arcs. In the middle of the electric arcs, Du Xiaofu could clearly see two figures sitting cross-legged. It was a man and a woman, and both of their eyes were tightly shut. The two of them looked like they were in their 40s, and their bodies were wrapped in a black and white inlaid rune light circle that protected them. Strictly speaking, the light circle did not protect the two of them. Instead, it was absorbing traces of yellow electric arcs. Finally, it slowly poured the absorbed yellow electric arcs into the two of them. The man and woman were actually absorbing the energy of the heavenly earth-shattering thunder. Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with doubt. The woman's charm was outstanding, and her fine black hair was tied up in a bun. Her face was graceful and luxurious. As for the man, his golden hair was loose, and he gave off a wild aura. Although the two of them were sitting cross-legged, they were currently facing each other. and their 4 hands formed an extremely strange hand seal. At this moment, what made Du Xiaofu even more surprised was that although the two of them were sitting cross-legged, Du Xiaofu could faintly feel that the aura of the two of them was extremely boundless. It even made Du Xiaofu feel that the more he probed, the more vast it felt. An expert, an absolute expert. Du Xiaofu immediately frowned. The two of them were able to stay in this place unscathed, and it seemed that they had been here for a long time. They were actually not destroyed by the heavenly earth-shattering thunder, and instead looked leisurely, as if they were deliberately absorbing the heavenly earth-shattering thunder. They were definitely terrifying experts, and Du Xiaofu could not help but feel wary. Feeling the hand seals formed by the man and woman at this moment, and the terrifying aura that spread out from the two of them, Du Xiaofu seemed to be able to feel a kind of déjà vu aura, as if he was quite familiar with it. Just as Du Xiaofu's thoughts were flying through his mind, the bright yellow electric arcs in the rock cave had gradually disappeared. Then, the man and woman's hand seals dispersed, and the black and white lights circle on their bodies dispersed. Their tightly shut eyes trembled slightly, and then they opened. Chi-chi, following which, the man and woman opened their eyes, and a bright light shot out from their eyes. 2 powerful and terrifying auras immediately spread out from their bodies, and yellow electric arcs overflowed in all directions. Dang dang. Just the aura that spread out from the man and woman's body was enough to cause Du Xiaofu, who was far away, to directly take a few steps back. Boom! That formless and vast aura was incomparably majestic and revealed an endless vastness. Too strong. Du Xiaofu was shocked. At this moment, the aura that spread out from the man and woman made Du Xiaofu feel that it should be above that of his master, honorable weapon, and fifth martial uncle, Minister GMO. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also immediately became vigilant. His aura surged, and his body emitted a golden light, causing the bright yellow electric arcs in the space to surge. The yellow-haired man opened his eyes and stretched his waist. He looked at Du Xiaofu with a rather strange gaze and slightly raised his eyebrows. This kid seems to be only a transcendent martial honorable. Daring to come down with such strength and still not being killed, this is a miracle. No. Suddenly, the yellow-haired man seemed to have discovered something, and his eyes trembled fiercely. He immediately stood up and looked at Du Xiaofu in shock, fused with the heaven-shattering earth thunder. You actually fused with that spirit thunder, and only have the cultivation of a transcendent martial honorable. How is this possible? Chapter 1203. The middle-aged woman also stood up. She looked at Du Xiaofu with her yellow eyes, and an invisible aura enveloped the area. She said to the middle-aged man beside her, "This brat probably has more than one type of spirit lightning. This brat is really strange." The yellow-haired middle-aged man stared at Du Xiaofu as if he was looking at a new continent. He then asked, "Are you a disciple of the Hawan school?" Du Xiaofu heard this and looked at the man and woman who were secretly terrified. His eyes darted around and he asked, "Who are you?" Du Xiaofu couldn't help but suspect that these two people were strong cultivators from the Hawan school. With his current relationship with the Hawan school, Du Xiaofu didn't dare to tell these two that he was still in a relationship with the Hawan school. "I was the one who sealed that bolt of heavenly earth thunder here. Brat, you took advantage of me and merged with my heavenly earth thunder. You actually don't know who I am." The yellow-haired middle-aged man looked at Du Xiaofu with a sullen expression. He had painstakingly captured that bolt of heavenly earth thunder, but in the end, he couldn't merge with it. He could only settle for the next best thing. He didn't think that this transcendent martial saint would be able to merge with it. He didn't even know who he was. The yellow-haired middle-aged man frowned and said sullenly, "It's no wonder. So many years have passed. It's normal that you don't know who I am. It should be close to 2,000 years. 2,000 years. Hearing this number, Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly widened. The heavenly earth thunder had been trapped for 2,000 years. Calculating the time, this person might really be telling the truth. He doesn't seem very old, but he's already a transcendent martial saint and has merged with the heavenly earth thunder. He seems to have more than one type of spirit lightning. Tianzi is rare. The middle-aged woman sized up Du Xiaofu, and her brows twitched. She said, however, the aura on his body doesn't belong to the Hahuan school. It's like the aura of a demonic beast, but not of the beast clan. This brat is strange. Tianzi is indeed strong. The yellow-haired middle-aged man looked at Du Xiaofu and sensed Du Xiaofu's vigilance. He smiled and said, "You don't need to be nervous, kid. Only those who are fated to get the earth-shattering thunder. We've had it for 2,000 years, but we still haven't been able to fuse with it. You being able to fuse with the heavenly thunder of earth is your own destiny. We are Ru Ming Ru Kuang from Hahuan School. Back then, people called us Ru Ming Ru Kuang, and we were also one of the headmasters of Hahuan School. With our status, we won't do anything to a brat like you. We're not that petty. Could it be that you were able to enter this place because of Hahuan School?" Wild Dream Dual Domain Lord. Listening to the yellow-haired middle-aged man's words, Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. With the strength of these two people, if they wanted to do anything to him, it would definitely be troublesome. He was afraid that he would be in big trouble when the time came. "I do have some relationship with Hahuan School, but it's not a good relationship. I can't do anything to those people from Hahuan School, so I could only escape here." Du Xiaofu didn't hide it anymore. With their status, they had already shown their sincerity. There was no need for him to hide it anymore. Anyway, if they wanted to fight, he could only fight with all his strength. Haha, so that's how it is. This is fate. Hearing this, the yellow-haired middle-aged man laughed and said to Du Xiaofu, "You were chased here by Hahuan School. Does Hahuan School have a deep grudge against you? Or do you have a deep grudge against Hahuan School?" "It has nothing to do with me. It's your Hahuan School that's in chaos." Du Xiaofu felt that the yellow-haired middle-aged man in front of him had a straightforward personality and wasn't a treacherous person. Therefore, he didn't hide it anymore. Hahuan School is in chaos? Hearing this, the middle-aged woman frowned. Her eyes moved and she asked Du Xiaofu, "What's the situation in Hahuan School now?" Du Xiaofu didn't have to hide it. He told her the cause of the incident from Su Muxin and Tang Meiling, as well as the general situation in Hahuan School. They actually dared to have internal strife. This group of disappointing things. "I'm so angry." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the yellow-haired middle-aged man immediately cursed. He didn't care about his status at all, but then he stared at Du Xiaofu and said, "Brat, did you just say that you obtained the Qinyang subduing dragon art?" "That's right." Du Xiaofu nodded. The Qinyang subduing dragon art was indeed in his possession. "You were able to open the Qinyang subduing dragon art. Are you sure you haven't practiced any Hahuan School's cultivation methods?" The yellow-haired middle-aged man became more and more puzzled. He curiously sized up Du Xiaofu. "I've already opened it, and I haven't practiced any Hahuan School's cultivation methods." Du Xiaofu nodded. "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. If you're not a disciple of Hahuan School, it's impossible for you to open the Qinyang subduing dragon art." The yellow-haired middle-aged man said with certainty, "I set up a restriction on it. As long as you're not a disciple of Hahuan School, it's impossible for you to obtain the cultivation methods inside by force. It will only self-destruct." "You were the one who placed the Qinyang subduing dragon art?" Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled. From his tone, the Qinyang subduing dragon art seemed to have been placed by the yellow-haired middle-aged man in front of him. "That's right. Back then, I was the one who split the Qinyang Dragon Tiger art into two and hid the Qinyang subduing dragon art in Mount Cloudy Rain." The yellow-haired middle-aged man nodded. His hair swayed slightly, and his eyes revealed some anger. He said angrily, "But I didn't expect those bastards to get worse with each generation. They even dare to cause internal strife now. When I get out, I'll definitely slap them to death." "All right, don't be angry. They're just some juniors. Don't you feel embarrassed to interfere?" The middle-aged woman looked at the yellow-haired middle-aged man and rolled her eyes slightly. She said, "Besides, you were the one who split the Qinyang Dragon Tiger art into two and hid the Qinyang subduing dragon art in Mount Cloudy Rain. Otherwise, things wouldn't be like this now." The yellow-haired middle-aged man seemed to be a little henpecked in front of the middle-aged woman. He curled his lips and softly said, "Back then, I only wanted to give them some motivation to search. Who knows, they might be able to find the treasure left behind by an emperor. I thought that since we were still around, The Qinyang Dragon Tiger art wouldn't be lost in Hawan School. I never expected that our delay would end up being 2,000 years. In short, this matter is also related to you. Moreover, these are matters of the younger generation. Given your status, it isn't appropriate for you to go out and resolve them. There are some things that we should clarify. After the middle-aged woman finished speaking to the yellow-haired middle-aged man, she looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "You just said that the current sect master of Hahuan School was forced to flee here. Do you know where they are now?" Du Xiaofu was a little hesitant. He didn't know if he should trust the two of them. The yellow-haired middle-aged man saw Du Xiaofu's hesitation and said with a smile, "Kid, you don't have to be wary of us. You have the Qinyang Dragon Subduing Technique. You can be considered a member of Hahuan School. With our status, even if you are an enemy of Hahuan School, we won't attack a junior like you." Du Xiaofu formed a seal with his hands. Then, a misty light shot out from between his eyebrows, and the desolate ancient space appeared in front of him. It seems to be an extraordinary treasure. No wonder this kid is so cautious. The yellow-haired middle-aged man was a little surprised. He could feel that the desolate ancient space was extraordinary. Chi, the space rippled and fluctuated. Then, Su Muxin, Tang Miling, and Ji Jian appeared in the desolate ancient space. The remaining 2 updates will probably be done very late. It might even be after midnight. Brothers, please forgive us. Today's update won't be short. It will be very late. Tomorrow's update won't be short either. As for the update time, I apologize. Chapter 1204. Su Muxin, Tang Miling, and Ji Jian, who had entered the desolate ancient space to heal, did not spend much time there. The 3 girls appeared, their eyes filled with confusion. They immediately noticed the yellow-haired middle-aged man and the middle-aged woman, and their eyes filled with surprise. "You are Hahuan School's disciples?" The middle-aged woman looked at the 3 girls, her eyes vast, as if she could see through them with a single glance. The 3 girls looked puzzled. Su Muxin looked at the yellow-haired middle-aged man and the middle-aged woman, her dewy, clear eyes rippling, as if she had sensed a familiar aura. Disciple Su Muxin, Hahuan School's 76th headmaster, greets the 2 seniors. "May I know your names?" Suddenly, Su Muxin bowed respectfully, as if confirming something. Hearing this, Tang Miling and Ji Jian's expressions also changed, and they immediately bowed as well. "Rise. We have been here for a long time. I wonder if the younger generation still remembers who placed the earth-shattering thunder in the Manchu?" The middle-aged woman waved her hand, indicating for Su Muxin, Tang Miling, and Ji Jian to rise. The seniors who suppressed and sealed the earth-shattering thunder in the Manchu were Hahuan School's 36th headmaster and headmaster. They are known as the Crazed Dream Region Masters outside. Suddenly, Su Muxin's clear eyes trembled again, and her seductive aura rippled. She looked at the middle-aged woman and the yellow-haired middle-aged man and said, "The seniors are the 36th headmaster and headmaster, Rumming Region Master and Crazed Region Master." 36th headmaster. Tang Miling was stunned. Her eyes trembled, and her eyes glazed over. "The 36th headmaster and headmaster of Hahuan School were us back then." The middle-aged woman nodded and looked Su Muxin up and down. She said softly, "Martial arts and talisman skills are both cultivated, and you have also cultivated the Kuan-Yin Tiger Subduing Technique. You have a natural disposition." Suddenly, the middle-aged woman seemed to have discovered something. Her figure flashed and appeared in front of Su Muxin like a ghost. Several hand seals condensed and a faint light enveloped Su Muxin. She said, "You're no longer a virgin?" Su Muxin bit her lips and glanced at Du Xiaofu from the corner of her eyes. She nodded at the dreamlike domain lord and softly said, "Yes. You should know that those who cultivate the Kuan-Yin Tiger Taming Technique must maintain their virginity, unless..." The dreamlike domain lord suddenly glanced at Du Xiaofu. Her eyes moved slightly as if she was prying at something, causing Du Xiaofu to feel inexplicably flustered. For some reason, he felt like a child who had made a mistake and did not dare to look straight at her. "No wonder you were able to unlock the Qinyang Dragon Subduing Technique even though you're not a Hahuan School disciple. So that's why." The dreamlike domain lord's expression suddenly became enlightened. She softly said, In that case, the problem isn't that big. Unlock the Qinyang Dragon subduing technique. Domain Lord Ru Kuang rubbed the back of his head and looked at Du Xiaofu in surprise. So you've already taken advantage of her. After speaking for a long time, Domain Lord Ru Kuang sighed and stared at Du Xiaofu in a rather strange manner. What's wrong with me? Du Xiaofu's face was blank. He had no idea what had happened. Brat, are you still pretending to be innocent after taking advantage of her? Domain Lord Ru Kuang glared at Du Xiaofu. Su Muxin's delicate face secretly changed color when she heard Domain Lord Ru Kuang's words. She bit her red lips and said, Ancestor Ru Kuang was trapped in an illusion for some reason. So some people don't know what happened? I see. Only then did Domain Lord Ru Kuang's gaze move away from Du Xiaofu and look at Su Muxin, Tang Meiling, and Ji Jiyan. She said, I already have a rough understanding of the Haihuan school situation. Come with me and tell me in detail about the Haihuan school's current situation. As her voice fell, Domain Lord Ru Kuang's figure had already drifted into the distance. Profound energy gushed out from Su Muxin's feet as her beautiful figure drifted into the distance. Cough. For some reason, Domain Lord Ru Kuang suddenly coughed. He looked at Du Xiaofu, who was looking at Domain Lord Ru Kuang and Su Muxin, and said with interest, they want to talk about the Haihuan school. It has nothing to do with us. I still don't know your name, brat. Replying to Senior, this brat is Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu replied. He had a good impression of Domain Lord Ru Kuang in front of him. From his aura and name, he could be sure that this was a martial domain realm cultivator who was currently stronger than his master, Xiahou Fenglei, and his fifth martial uncle, GMO What Senior. Cultivators take precedence. Brat, you are young and have extraordinary talent. Sooner or later, you will surpass me. If you are polite, you can call me Brother Kuang. Domain Lord Ru Kuang laughed wildly. Brother Kuang. Hearing Domain Lord Ru Kuang's words, Tang Meiling collapsed on the side. If Du Xiaofu and the 36th supervisor of the Haihuan school called each other brothers, then all the disciples of the Haihuan school would become his juniors. In the future, she would have to salute this brat in front of her. Greetings, Brother Kuang. Who was Du Xiaofu? How could he not take advantage of a good thing? Domain Lord Ru Kuang in front of him was older than his big brother, Qingqingchun. At present, he was still a strong existence. It was polite to call each other brothers, not to mention that this was something that he could take advantage of. Ha! Domain Lord Ru Kuang laughed and said to Du Xiaofu, Little brother, you confuse with the earth-shattering thunder. You must be very proficient in thunder and lightning. Can you tell me about it? I don't dare to play with a tiger in front of an expert. Du Xiaofu suddenly smiled bitterly. Previously, he could feel that this Domain Lord Ru Kuang also had a kind of thunder and lightning magic. Showing off in front of such a strong expert really made Du Xiaofu feel a little ashamed. Domain Lord Ru Kuang shook his head and said to Du Xiaofu, Little brother, you're wrong. What do you mean by playing with a tiger in front of an expert? The path of cultivation is endless. Your cultivation is not enough now, but it does not mean that your comprehension will be limited. Just like the bright moon in the sky, I can see it, and you can also see it. I'm just a little closer to it now. Du Xiaofu seemed to understand, but there was some fluctuation in his clear eyes. A moment later, a smile appeared on his resolute face. He nodded at Domain Master Ru Kuang and said, This little one understands. Thank you, Big Brother Kuang, for explaining. You're worth teaching. No wonder you can reach such a level at such a young age. Now, are you interested in talking to me about thunder and lightning magic? Domain Lord Ru Kuang's eyes flashed with a smile. Of course, Du Xiaofu nodded, and then began to talk about thunder and lightning magic with Domain Lord Ru Kuang, without any scruples about Tang Meiling and Ji Jiyan beside him. Chi. Not long after, the two of them formed hand seals, and thunder and lightning fluctuated on their bodies. A moment later, the two of them directly fought. Rumble. For a time, thunder resounded in the space. The rumbling sound of thunder reverberated, and thunder and lightning raged, forcing Tang Meiling and Ji Jiyan to stay away. This guy has some skills. Tang Meiling looked at Du Xiaofu, who was practicing with Domain Lord Ru Kuang. Although she could see that Domain Lord Ru Kuang was only practicing thunder and lightning magic with Du Xiaofu, it was enough to see that this kid was not simple. Jijian smiled at Tang Miling and said, Brother Dabai is naturally capable. Little Jiyan, don't tell me you like that little bastard Du Xiaofu? Tang Miling glared at Jijian. She didn't know why, but in her heart, she was gnashing her teeth at that little bastard. No one had ever dared to tease her, except for that guy in the heavenly prison. I didn't. Jijian's delicate face flashed, and then her eyes flashed with a smile. She looked at Tang Miling and said, Brother Dabai is my brother. Of course I'm happy. This is nothing. Instead, it's Martial Uncle who has been overreacting to Brother Dabai. Could it be that you have some thoughts in your heart? I have thoughts about that little bastard. Tang Miling glared at Jijian. She looked at the tall and straight figure in the sky, who was fighting with Domain Lord Ru Kuang with his thunder and lightning magic, and said, When I started cultivating, that kid wasn't even born yet. What thoughts would I have about a little bastard? That's not necessarily the case. Cultivators like us have a much longer lifespan than ordinary people. The higher one's cultivation, the longer one's lifespan will be. At Martial Uncle's and Big Brother Dabai's level, you can live for 1,000 years without aging. A few years is really nothing, Jijian said with a smile. When I returned to Hefei after the exam last night, it was already 4 o'clock in the morning. I was so sleepy that I wanted to sleep for 2 hours before getting up to rush the manuscript. In the end, I only got up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, everyone. I'll start writing now. Little Yu promises to finish all the manuscripts today. The next update will be released at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Chapter 1205. Tang Miling was taken aback, her gaze involuntarily landing on the tall young man in front of her. She snapped out of her daze and glared at Jijian. Little girl, you dare to tease your Martial Uncle? I'll teach you a lesson. If Martial Uncle wants to teach you a lesson, then go ahead. As long as Martial Uncle doesn't want to cover it up because I hit the nail on the head. If that's the case, I'll accept it. At most, I'll help you talk to Brother Dabai. Jijian pretended to be wronged and sighed softly. You little girl, I can't be bothered with you. When the time comes, I'll ask your master to teach you a lesson. Tang Miling was taken aback and simply ignored Jijian. Jijian smiled inwardly and didn't say anything else. She waited silently at the side, watching Du Xiaofu and Area Master Ru Kuang spar in the air. Not long after, about an hour later, Area Master Ru Ming and Su Muxin returned. Su Muxin stood quietly beside Area Master Ru Ming, her eyes slightly lowered. Her graceful curves were moving. You two can spar later. There's no rush. Domain Lord Ru Ming looked at the two figures in front of her, who were causing lightning and thunder to rumble. Her eyes were filled with shock. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation level, he could spar with Area Master Ru Kuang. Naturally, Area Master Ru Ming could see that Du Xiaofu had a deep understanding of lightning, so she was even more surprised. Rumble. In the sky before them, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The two were wrapped in lightning runes, and dazzling arcs of lightning filled the air. Then, they fell at the same time. Haha, boy, you're really extraordinary. You've exceeded my expectations. Area Master Ru Kuang laughed. His yellow hair danced like yellow arcs of lightning. Then, his aura slowly withdrew, wild and unruly. Du Xiaofu restrained his aura and the faint lightning in his clear eyes. With some gratitude, he said to Ru Kuang, Thank you, Big Brother Ru Kuang. Du Xiaofu knew very well that Domain Master Kuang's strength was far above his. Although he already had 3 kinds of spiritual thunder, 2 of which were integrated in his body, and the Thunder Martial Vein, it did not mean that his comprehension of Thunder Divine Sense was better than Domain Master Kuang's. On the contrary, his comprehension of Thunder Divine Sense was far worse than Domain Master Kuang's. It has nothing to do with me. It's your own strong perception. Ru Kuang shook his head and smiled at Du Xiaofu with satisfaction. All right, you two can continue to spar in the future. Rumming Domain Lord looked at Ru Kuang Domain Lord and said, Although we don't need to interfere with the matters of the younger generation of Hawan School, the current situation and strength of Hawan School are getting worse and worse. We have no choice but to interfere. Some bastards don't know what's good for them. Just kill a few and they'll settle down. Domain Lord Ru Kuang's expression changed and yellow lightning flashed in his eyes. The faint aura on his body was enough to make Du Xiaofu, Sumu Xin, Tang Miling, and Ji Jian feel uncomfortable. This is caused by some juniors. If you interfere, Hehuan School will become a laughingstock in the future. Rumming Domain Lord said to Rukwang Domain Lord, "Let the juniors deal with this themselves. However, we don't have enough time." Mu Xian said that those people have sent out invitations. In a few days, many sects in Shangzhou will gather at Hehuan School. At that time, it will be even more inappropriate for us to interfere. We can only let the juniors deal with it themselves. During this time, I want to teach Mu Xian the Kuanin tiger taming art. However, I'm afraid there's not enough time. After all, those two have cultivated the yin-yang fusion method and are quite talented. There's not much chance of winning. How long will it take? Du Xiaofu asked after a moment of hesitation. Under my guidance, with Mu Xian's talent, she should be able to take another step in the Kuanin tiger taming art in a month. Domain Lord Rumming said, "How many more days until the competition?" Du Xiaofu looked at Sumu Xin and Tang Miling. There should be 5 more days. Tang Miling calculated the time and said to Du Xiaofu, "With Rumming and Rukwang here, there was no need for her to raise her eyebrows at Du Xiaofu." Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. He formed a seal and the ancient space appeared again. An ancient and boundless aura spread out. The time inside should be enough. It's an extraordinary treasure that can affect time. It must contain time magic. Rukwang stared at the ancient, desolate space curiously. He had already felt that the ancient, desolate space was extraordinary. So he has such a treasure on him. Domain Lord Ru Ming was also extremely surprised. She looked at Du Xiaofu with a rather special expression. Then, she said to Domain Lord Ru Kwang, "Husband, you should give him some guidance on the Qinyang dragon subduing art." "I don't need it." Du Xiaofu shook his head and said, "I cultivate a rather special cultivation method. I'm afraid I can't cultivate the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art." "It doesn't matter. Cultivating the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art doesn't affect your cultivation method. You can use it as an auxiliary cultivation method." Domain Lord Rukwang said to Du Xiaofu with a smile on his face. "What's more, the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art is also extraordinary. I can see that although your cultivation method is strange, it should be a masculine cultivation method. The Kuan-Yang dragon taming art is also a masculine cultivation method. You can cultivate the aura with twice the result with half the effort. Maybe you will get a lot of help in the future." There are also several magical methods in the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art that are extremely mysterious, especially the Mad Dragon 9 Heavens. It can increase your strength a lot in a short time. It's a must for escaping and a trump card to deal with cultivators of the same level. At the end, Domain Lord Rukwang's saliva was already splashing. Du Xiaofu kept feeling that something was wrong, but he also knew that the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art was indeed extraordinary. It was at the peak of the high earth rank. After combining with the Kuanin tiger taming art, it would be a true heaven rank cultivation method. However, there was no doubt that Du Xiaofu was also tempted. Especially as Domain Lord Rukwang said, the Mad Dragon 9 Heavens in the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art. 5 days later, you will also need to take action. With your current cultivation, you won't be able to help much at that time, unless you cultivate the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art. Domain Lord Rumming said to Du Xiaofu, "I heard that you are also involved in this matter, so you can't shirk your responsibility. Those people won't let you escape so easily. Anyway, we won't interfere, so you have no other choice." "All right." Du Xiaofu nodded and could only agree to cultivate the Kuan-Yang dragon taming art. As Du Xiaofu nodded his head in agreement, Domain Lord Rumming and Domain Lord Rukwang both secretly revealed a trace of a smile in their eyes. Sumu Xin's eyes slightly trembled and then turned into ripples. She lowered her eyes even more, and the expression in her eyes was somewhat complicated. Her soul-stirring beautiful face also had a bit of redness. A moment later, the 6 of them all entered the desolate ancient space. The Kuan-Yang dragon taming art is a cultivation method within the Qinkuan dragon tiger art and is a dual cultivation method. Dual cultivation methods naturally have 3 grades: high, middle, and low. The low grade is to gather yin to nourish yang, and gather yang to nourish yin. However, the people of the world are greedy for pleasure. and instead call it plucking to nourish in. The middle-grade dual cultivation method is to cultivate one's heart, cultivate one's nature, refine one's essence, refine one's life, refine one's spirit, refine one's spirit, refine one's spirit back to the void, refine one's own foundation, eliminate all distracting thoughts, and grow together. The Kuren Yang dragon taming art is the best dual cultivation method. It can achieve 1,000 miles of spiritual connection and 10,000 miles of telepathy. It is not a matter of gathering yin to nourish yang, gathering the qi of heaven and earth to nourish my qi, gathering the essence of heaven and earth to nourish my essence, and gathering the spirit of heaven and earth to nourish my spirit. Because of the transformation of heaven and earth, I was created. Because of the fate of heaven and earth, I continued my life. If the qi of heaven and earth does not cease, my qi will not cease. If the transformation of heaven and earth does not cease, my transformation will not cease. In the desolate ancient space, Domain Lord Rukwang sat cross-legged and slowly guided Du Xiaofu. Time slowly passed, and Shang province was in turmoil. The evil purifying alliance was fighting against the evil spirits, and the winds and clouds were ceaseless. Hahuan School was also decorated with lanterns and streamers recently. The new sect master and the new sect supervisor had even invited all the major forces to be witnesses. Coincidentally, the evil purifying alliance's purge of the evil spirits was not far from Hahuan School. Hahuan School was also considered an old power. In addition, Su Muxin's reputation in Shang province had flourished. Now that something like this had happened in Hahuan School, all the major forces wanted to understand the situation, so they agreed to come. Chapter 1206. Hahuan School's new schoolmaster took office, and all the major powers in Shang Prefecture came. This caused the entire city to be shaken. Although Hahuan School was powerful, it was also a veteran power with deep roots. However, if it weren't for the major powers coming, Hahuan School wouldn't have attracted as much attention as it did now. Time passed amidst this commotion, and the major powers had already started attending Hahuan School. In the blink of an eye, when the sun was setting in the west, there was only one night left before the new sect leader of the He Huan sect took office. Hahuan School. A quiet courtyard sat on top of a mountain peak. Outside the courtyard, several figures swept their gazes across the brightly lit buildings on the mountain peaks in all directions. In the lead was an extraordinary young man of about 25 or 26 years old. Under the night sky, his body was surrounded by simple and elegant runes. He was extraordinarily handsome, and his robes were embroidered with sword patterns. He muttered softly, "Hahuan School has undergone a major change. Back then, they said that Du Xiaofu had already fled Hahuan School. I'm afraid that wasn't the truth, but it's a pity that we haven't been able to find any evidence. Young schoolmaster, we don't have to get too involved in Hahuan School's matters. Hahuan School has been around for quite some time, and this time, it won't be long before the evil purifying alliance is formed. The Hahuan School is also part of it, and it can be considered a gathering of the evil purifying alliance. That's why we came here to give face to Hahuan School." An old man stood quietly behind the extraordinary young man. His figure was faintly discernible under the night sky, and his aura was very vigorous. "As long as they aren't telling the truth, I'll find evidence one day." The extraordinary young man looked at the night sky. A few stars were already faintly discernible. He muttered softly, "I have a feeling that tomorrow won't be too peaceful." Hahuan School. The main hall was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Red lights flickered, exuding a joyous atmosphere. Tomorrow is the day you become the suzerain of Hahuan School. However, we don't know whether Su Muxin is dead or alive. There are still some loose ends that have yet to be settled. Now that all the major powers are here, it's easy for new problems to arise. In the main hall, Zhang Anteo whispered to Zhao Lu, "Su Muxin is dead for sure. No one who enters the forbidden area can come out. Those elders are stubborn and wholeheartedly support Su Muxin. If we kill them all, I'm afraid many people will have other thoughts. Su Muxin also has some reputation outside. When I take office tomorrow, I will tell the outside world that there is no Su Muxin in the Hahuan School. There is only me, Zhao Lu. As for those elders, When the time comes, everything will be a foregone conclusion. Zhao Lu's eyes flashed with killing intent, emitting traces of coldness. Zhang Anteo nodded. He looked at Zhao Lu and said, "After tomorrow, everything will be a foregone conclusion. The Hehuan school will be ours in the future." Humph. The Hehuan school has been ours for 20 years. That bitch disguised herself as a man and stole 20 years of my Hehuan school, Zhao Lu said coldly. The Hehuan school was bustling with noise and excitement overnight. All the major powers gathered in the Hehuan school. The Hehuan school's disciples were busy preparing for the suzerain's inauguration ceremony and the general assembly until dawn. Swoosh, swoosh. In the underground space of the deep pit, outside the desolate ancient space, 6 figures flew out. The children are worth teaching. We'll leave everything to you. We're too lazy to intervene. The result will depend on your own abilities. After the 2 figures flew out of the desolate ancient space, they flew upwards, leaving behind a voice similar to Domain Master Kuang's. Then, the 2 figures disappeared. Huff Du Xiaofu took a deep breath as he stood tall and straight. His eyes were clear and bright, boundless and deep. There was a faint smile on his face. 5 days in the outside world equaled 2 months in the desolate ancient space. He had benefited greatly. How's the cultivation of the Qianyang dragon subduing art? Su Muxin looked at Du Xiaofu and asked as she watched Domain Lord Ru Meng and Domain Lord Ru Kuang leave. Big Brother Kuang said that it's almost done. Du Xiaofu smiled. When he cultivated the Qianyang subduing dragon exercise using the auxiliary power method, he discovered that this Qianyang subduing dragon exercise was more extraordinary than he imagined. The benefits he obtained from it were absolutely amazing. If he knew that the benefits were so great, he would have cultivated it long ago. Su Muxin's eyes moved slightly when she heard this. Her figure was graceful, her temperament was enchanting, and her voice was gentle. She said unhurriedly, "It's about time. Although the 2 patriarchs asked you to help me, you just need to listen. I only want you to help me with some small matters. You don't need to intervene in the rest. When the time comes, you'll be free and can leave the Hehuan school at any time." Whatever you say. Du Xiaofu shrugged his shoulders and smiled faintly. Since she didn't need him to intervene in the matters of the Hehuan school, that was even better. Anyway, he didn't want to intervene. Su Muxin's eyes moved slightly. Her beautiful face was suddenly filled with charm. She faintly glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "Jian, senior sister Miling, and I will go find some elders who are trapped. You go to the plaza and stop Zhao Lu and Zhang Anteo for a while. If you don't dare, then follow us." Why would I not dare? It's not like I haven't broken through the Hehuan school before. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Although he knew that Su Muxin was trying to provoke him, it seemed that he was really provoked. However, now that his cultivation had increased greatly, and with the appearance of the 2 domain lords, Du Xiaofu was no longer afraid of anything. At least, he didn't need to be afraid of anyone below the martial domain realm. Just delay them for a while. I'll catch up with them later. I'm afraid that they'll be tempted by the treasures on you. Don't lose your life when the time comes. Su Muxin's bewitching eyes narrowed slightly. Her tone was still indifferent, neither fast nor slow. Du Xiaofu faintly smiled and said, "You chased after me to kill me, and now you're worried about my life. Are all women so strange?" Hearing this, Ji Jian and Tang Miling immediately frowned. Their eyes flickered, as if they didn't expect that Du Xiaofu would dare to tease Shangzhou's Su Muxin. Su Muxin's expression didn't change at Du Xiaofu's words. Her eyes didn't fluctuate either. She looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "If you die, it has nothing to do with me. You'll know once you try." This, Du Xiaofu was stunned. He could only helplessly look at Su Muxin. He stood with his hands behind his back and said, "It's about time. I'll go out first. I'll definitely keep my life well. The Hehuan school won't be able to take it away." As his voice fell, Du Xiaofu's figure slowly appeared in front of them. He formed a seal with his hands, and suddenly, a bright yellow electric arc surged out from his body. Walala! All of a sudden, electric arcs flickered in the space of the deep pit. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Waves of berserk and bright electric arcs swept towards Du Xiaofu with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. In the end, like a miracle, The surging bright yellow electric arcs surged into Du Xiaofu's body as if they had turned into nothingness. This little bastard is too abnormal. He really merged with the heavenly earth thunder. Tang Meiling couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. The terrifying heavenly earth thunder that had merged with one's body contained a terrifying amount of energy. I'm leaving. You guys be careful. As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, faint electric arcs fluctuated on his body, and his figure disappeared. Within the deep pit, as she watched the tall and straight figure gradually disappear, the calm expression on Su Muxin's face slowly disappeared. Her delicate hands clenched slightly under her sleeves, and the light in her eyes swayed a little. It was like a stone that had been thrown into a calm lake. Let's go. There are some things that need to be settled today. As her gentle voice sounded out, it revealed a faint chill. A trace of coldness flashed across Su Muxin's clear eyes. Hahuan School. When the darkness before dawn passed, the entire Hahuan School began to bustle with noise and excitement. Today's Hahuan School was specially decorated. The atmosphere was jubilant, as if it was a wedding. The appointment of a new school head had always been an extremely important matter for the Hahuan School. The tedious process was unavoidable. After all, it represented a kind of ceremony. This time around, the various large factions had come to observe the ceremony, causing the entire Hehuan sect to become even livelier. The eyes of the entire Shang prefecture were gathered on the Hehuan sect today. Chapter 1207. Hahuan School's reputation had been declining over the years. Today, it had once again gathered the attention of all the people in Shang province. However, under such circumstances, the experts from the various major powers who had come to Hahuan School all felt an indescribable pressure. However, the ordinary disciples from the various major powers who had come to attend the Hahuan School's inauguration ceremony were unable to feel this indescribable pressure. Some of the younger disciples from the various large factions were even quite curious. After all, the Hehuan sect's reputation in the entire Shang prefecture was involuntarily a little open. It was rumored that the direct disciples of the Hehuan sect were all handsome men and beautiful women. After entering Hahuan School, the younger generation of the various major powers, regardless of their gender, all maintained a certain distance. However, some of the younger females from the various major powers were too embarrassed to get too close and could only maintain their distance. After all, reputation was the most important thing for females. Early in the morning, under the guidance of the Hahuan School's disciples, the spectators from the various major powers were all invited to the plaza of Hahuan School. The seat of honor was naturally arranged for the Sa Ming sword sect. Below the Sa Ming sword sect were the major powers in Shang province whose reputation was second only to the Sa Ming sword sect. However, this time, the seats of honor of the various major powers were all elites of the younger generation. Amongst them, the most attractive one was naturally the Sa Ming sword sect's Mu Jianchen, causing the hearts of countless females to be moved and unable to take their eyes off him. However, Mu Jianchen sat on the seat of honor without moving an inch towards those females who were secretly casting glances at him. He did not pay any attention to them at all. As time passed, noisy and lively noises resounded throughout Hahuan School. Hahuan School's disciples dressed in festive clothing filled the plaza. The handsome males and charming females attracted everyone's attention. Hahuan School's elders and protectors were among the crowd, occasionally welcoming the congratulatory guests. Hahuan School's new sect master, sect supervisor, has arrived. Just as the festive atmosphere reached its peak and soared into the clouds, a clear and melodious voice resounded throughout the plaza. When this voice rang out, the noise in the entire square immediately decreased. Everyone's eyes looked towards the center of the square. On the seat of honor, Mu Jianchen's gaze followed the voice and looked towards the center of the square. Following the gazes of the crowd, they saw a beautiful woman wearing a golden cloud dress slowly walking over from the side of the square, surrounded by dozens of people. The beautiful woman was wearing a golden robe embroidered with a few rich peonies. Her face was full of smiles and her eyes were charming. This girl was Zhao Lu of the Hahuan School. She was also the new schoolmaster of the Hahuan School. Today, she was in high spirits. Her cloud-shaped thousand-water dress that dragged on the ground outlined a graceful curve. She was like a young girl, causing ripples in the hearts of young men. Beside Zhao Lu, Zheng Anteo followed closely behind. Today, he was dressed exquisitely, and his broad face appeared even more handsome. His eyes were as deep and vast as the stars. A smile hung on Zheng Anteo's face as he cupped his hands towards the people he was familiar with from the various large factions. Today, I would like to thank everyone for coming to the Haohuan School to observe the ceremony. This old man represents the Haohuan School and would like to express his gratitude to everyone. Please forgive us for our lack of hospitality. At the head of the square, a one-armed old man loudly spoke. His voice resounded throughout the plaza. It was Earth Lezuan, who had one of his arms chopped off by Du Xiaofu back then. Upon hearing Earth Lezuan's words, the various factions around the square began to congratulate the new schoolmaster. After all, the Haohuan School was an absolute large faction in Shangzhou. However, there were also some factions that were watching quietly. They did not show much of a commotion. As she listened to the congratulatory voices from the surroundings that were like stormy waves that reached the clouds, Zhao Lu was as charming as the moon. Her eyes were filled with charm that tugged at one's heart. The ceremony for the new schoolmaster will now begin. Earth Lezuan glanced at the bustling plaza as his voice resounded throughout the Haohuan School. Boom! In an instant, the atmosphere in the entire plaza reached its peak. The voices of the people were boiling and resounded through the clouds. With a smile in her eyes, Zhao Lu's figure flashed and immediately leapt to the center of the plaza. Her eyes were filled with smiles as she looked at her surroundings. All the surrounding Haohuan School disciples raised their heads and were about to respectfully greet her. Roar! At the same time, a sharp sound of breaking wind streaked across the sky amidst the boiling clamor. It carried the faint roar of a dragon and tiger as it suddenly resounded through the clouds. A purple-gold thunderbolt streaked across the sky above the crowd and directly landed on the plaza. Crack, crack. As the purple-gold thunderbolt landed, the entire plaza suddenly trembled. The plaza, which was clearly reinforced by a symbol array, began to crack and spread in all directions. The purple-gold light retracted. It was a purple-gold broadsword with the bones of a tiger and the body of a dragon. It was a peerless divine weapon that emitted a terrifying aura. It was as if the four divine beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, phoenix, and black tortoise, were entrenched on its left and right. The vast aura that emanated from the peerless divine weapon caused the clouds in all directions to move. The Dao tools and talisman weapons in countless people's bodies were secretly trembling within their divine watchtowers. What a divine weapon! Everyone's gazes landed on the purple-gold divine weapon in unison. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. When the gazes of some people from the Haohuan School and a few existences from the surrounding large factions came into contact with the purple-gold broadsword, their eyes suddenly trembled. Their gazes seemed to have been electrocuted as they immediately shot towards the sky. Whoosh! Under the gazes of many people, a purple-red figure slowly streaked across the sky in front of them. He was neither fast nor slow. Under the gazes of the entire plaza, he directly landed on the plaza as if he was today's main character. How lively! It's better to come at the right time than to come early. The figure landed. It was a young man with a tall and straight figure. He appeared to be around 22 or 23 years old. He did not have the kind of stunning handsomeness, but he had a kind of fortitude and determination that ordinary people rarely had. The gaze within his clear eyes was deep and vast. His faint and clear laughter also slowly resounded across the sky the moment he landed on the ground. It's him, at the head of the plaza, Mu Jianshen, who was seated in the middle of the Saming sword sect, was not moved by anyone present. He was the current alliance head of the Purifying Evil Alliance in the Shang province. When his gaze saw the young man who had landed on the ground, his figure immediately stood up. The sharp expression within his eyes surged with a smile. It's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. Following the arrival of the tall and straight young man, the entire plaza temporarily fell into a special atmosphere. However, soon after, the Haohuan School disciples within the crowd cried out in astonishment. When the name of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, spread. The entire plaza immediately turned into an uproar. Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Didn't he escape from the Hehuan school? Why has he returned? The Hehuan school disciples were stunned. The shock that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, had given them in this plaza back then was really a little too great. Demon King, Du Xiaofu. It is indeed him. At this moment, among the people from the various large factions in the Shang province, there were also experts who had been to the Tianhuang continent back then. As they looked at the tall and straight young man, they had also heard about the matter of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, causing a great commotion in the Hehuan school back then. At this moment, the appearance of the little Demon King immediately caused quite a number of people to quietly reveal a smile. It was likely that there would be a lively show to watch soon. Junior sect leader, he has come. Should we? As Mu Jianchen stood up from the Sa Meng sword sects group, an old man behind him softly said. Mu Jianchen looked at the purple-robed young man in the plaza and waved his hand to the back. He gently sat down and said softly, "It seems that things aren't like what the Hehuan school said. However, since he has come, it means that he has confidence. If we interfere, then he wouldn't be the Demon King, Du Xiaofu." Hearing this, the old man didn't say anything and quietly sat beside Mu Jianchen. A pair of deep eyes also looked at Du Xiaofu with interest. The entire plaza was stunned. Zhao Lu, Zheng Anteo, Earth Leizuan, and the other experts of the Hehuan school all had disbelief in their eyes. How can that demon still be alive? This is impossible. No human puppet has escaped. Earth Leizuan shook his head. In order to comprehend the lightning divine ability, he entered the seal array and comprehended it at the edge of the seal array. In the end, he encountered the earth-shattering heavenly lightning. If he didn't escape quickly, he wouldn't even know how he died. How can that brat still be alive? Zhao Lu, Zheng Anteo, and the others were also shocked. Then, they secretly changed their expressions. They absolutely didn't expect that today. They were afraid that some of Su Muxin's remaining forces would come out to cause trouble. However, they didn't expect that the one who came out in the end would be the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. He was also in the forbidden area and wasn't harmed at all. Brat, this time you're dead. Suddenly, Earth Leizuan, who had only one arm, opened his eyes wide when he saw his enemy. Last time, when Du Xiaofu cut off his arm, he was furious and thought about it. It was one matter that his opponent's strength wasn't ordinary. It was another matter that he underestimated his opponent at the beginning. When he realized that he couldn't underestimate his opponent, he was already a step too late. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been defeated by that brat, and in such a miserable manner. Boom. At this moment, Earth Leizuan's voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. Resplendent yellow lightning runes overflowed in all directions, erupting with terrifying lightning power. Monstrous lightning suddenly spread out from Earth Leizuan's body and swept out in all directions, shaking the entire square. The sky changed color in an instant. The wind and clouds surged, as if a storm was coming. Earth Leizuan was a chaotic element martial lord. Although he only had one arm at the moment, it didn't affect his strength too much. Without a doubt, he was still a top expert in this world. The lightning profound that Earth Leizuan cultivated was so powerful that it shocked the experts from the various major forces in the surroundings. This time, Earth Leizuan attacked violently, wanting to get rid of that demon in the shortest time possible. Today was a big day for the Hehuan school. All the major forces in Shangzhou had come. If he didn't get rid of that demon as soon as possible, the consequences would be dire. Rumble. In a short moment, Earth Leizuan's aura erupted. The resplendent yellow lightning on his body destroyed the void, and majestic celestial chi swept out from his body at the same time. At this moment, Earth Leizuan's chaotic element martial lord aura surged out without holding back. Finally, it condensed into a huge, resplendent yellow lightning ball in midair. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Resplendent yellow lightning arcs shuttled back and forth in the sky. Talisman runes accompanied the yellow lightning arcs shuttling through the yellow thunderclouds in midair, giving off a demonic feeling. It also brought a destructive pressure down from the sky. This Earth Leizuan is really not weak. The moment the lightning ball condensed, The sound of people sucking in cold air rose and fell one after another. They were all shocked. The lightning ball hovered in the sky, causing lightning to flash and thunder to rumble in the square. It was as if doomsday had arrived. "Brat, you still dare to come back? Then die." Earth Lazuin's eyes were filled with lightning and killing intent. He roared angrily and shook his only arm. The terrifying lightning ball carried resplendent yellow lightning arcs and a destructive energy as it swept out. It was like a falling star, ruthlessly descending towards Du Xiaofu. Rumble. Wherever the lightning ball passed, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the square. Many cracks exploded in the ground. The terrifying lightning ball collapsed, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to split. Earth Lazuin of the chaotic element martial lord level is really not to be trifled with. He has the intention to kill. Let's see how far Du Xiaofu has come from the Demon King. Many people in the formation of the various forces gasped for Du Xiaofu at this moment. This time, it seemed to be slow. However, it was as fast as lightning. Earth Lazuin's attack this time was at full strength. He wanted to suppress and finish off Du Xiaofu with a single move. At this moment, the countless gazes in the surroundings were shocked. They saw the destructive lightning ball land on Du Xiaofu's body and directly envelop him. Rumble. The lightning ball directly smashed onto the spot where Du Xiaofu was. Immediately, earth-shaking thunder exploded in the square. Countless lightning arcs wreaked havoc, causing the ground to crack and ravine, causing the square to become extremely chaotic. The various forces and Hahuan School's experts immediately set up a rune light screen around the square, blocking the chaos outside. The terrifying lightning exploded, causing a huge crater to appear in the square that was reinforced by the runes, causing everyone to be shocked. Even if a Nirvana martial reverend encountered such a terrifying attack, it would be extremely difficult for him to resist it. Who would have thought that the earthly thunder reverend would be so formidable? One big chapter. I don't know why I'm writing so slowly today, but I've been writing. Little you accept all the disdain and ridicule, but I'll continue to write. At the very least, I won't be late. Chapter 1208. Seeing Du Xiaofu get attacked, the countless gazes in the surroundings and the various factions of Shang province were filled with shock and nervousness. Earth Lazuin's terrifying lightning attack was clear to most of the people in the surroundings that they would not be able to withstand it. Even chaotic element martial saints would have to suck in a breath of cold air. Earth Lazuin used his full strength right from the start. Although that Du Xiaofu is somewhat famous, he is still of the younger generation. I'm afraid he will not be able to withstand it. A yellow-robed old man behind an extraordinary youth in the lineup of a major faction whose status was only below that of the Saman Sword sect said with interest, "Demon King Du Xiaofu is a little too arrogant. What a pity." Not far away, a middle-aged man with bright eyes said with some regret. With his perception and vision, he could see that no matter how strong Du Xiaofu was, he would not be able to withstand Lazuin's killing intent. That brat is dead for sure this time. On the plaza, among the group of elders and experts from the Hahuan school who were clustered behind Zhao Lu, there was an old woman with a sinister expression. She looked at the area of the plaza where the resplendent yellow lightning had exploded and sneered. Kill him directly and prevent any future troubles. A beautiful woman beside Zhao Lu had an extraordinary aura and temperament. She gave off a fiery aura, but her long and narrow eyes were filled with a cold, killing intent that could not be concealed. Within the lineup of the Saman Sword sect, beside Mu Jianxin, the old man with a vigorous aura looked at the plaza and frowned slightly. He said softly, "Demon King Du Xiaofu is too arrogant. I'm afraid the consequences will be serious this time." Mu Jianxin smiled faintly and stared at the chaotic space where the lightning had exploded. However, he was not worried at all. He shook his head and replied to the old man beside him, "You guys are underestimating him too much. The head of the 12 heroes, Demon King Du Xiaofu, is not him if he is not arrogant. Back then, he also killed Dragon 9. I feel that his strength has reached a new height and is even pushing me further and further away from him. He will definitely not die." Hearing this, many people from the Saman Sword sect were stunned. They did not expect that the young sect master's evaluation of the demon king Du Xiaofu would be so high. Haha, I knew that he would be fine. While many people from the same sword sect were stunned, Mu Jinshan suddenly smiled. His sharp gaze was filled with a smile that he rarely revealed. As Mu Jinshan's voice faded, the yellow lightning that had exploded in the plaza gradually dissipated. Finally, under the gazes of the crowd, a figure faintly appeared amidst the sizzling electric arcs. Then, a figure emerged from it. When he saw that figure, Lei Zuin's gaze fiercely trembled. A tall and straight figure clearly appeared in the plaza. His entire body was surrounded by resplendent yellow lightning, which was absorbed into his body. He waved his hand and flicked his robe as he slightly raised his head. That tall and straight youth was none other than Du Xiaofu. Who else could it be? Lei Zuin's lightning divine ability was comprehended from the heavenly earth-shattering thunder, and Du Xiaofu was already the master of the heavenly earth-shattering thunder. Lei Zuin's strength was not ordinary, but Du Xiaofu's cultivation had skyrocketed. Just as Talisman Dao alone was already at the late 8-star primordial chaos realm. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's physical body had already reached the 3rd level of the golden-winged great rock body tempering technique, tempering the divine body. Therefore, Du Xiaofu was not afraid of Lei Zuin at all. If it was a primordial chaos martial honorable who did not cultivate lightning divine ability, Du Xiaofu might still be afraid. However, Lei Zuin cultivated lightning divine ability and was also related to the heavenly earth-shattering thunder. This undoubtedly bumped into Du Xiaofu. When Du Xiaofu raised his face with a faint smile, Lei Zuin's heart trembled violently. At the same time, an inexplicable fear crept up from the depths of his heart. At the head of the plaza, Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo, as well as the 2 beautiful women beside them, secretly looked at each other with cold fluctuations in their eyes. Du Xiaofu flicked his sleeves, shook off a few strands of dust, and slowly took 2 steps forward. Under the stunned and blazing gazes of the entire plaza, Du Xiaofu looked at Lei Zuin. His tone was neither fast nor slow, revealing a faint contempt. He softly said, "You always use this move. Can you change it to something new? This move is already useless against me." Hearing Du Xiaofu's slightly contemptuous words, Lei Zuin's face had already turned completely gloomy. The corners of his mouth fiercely twitched a few times on his old face. Lei Zuin's eyes secretly surged with coldness, revealing a sinister look. Boom! Suddenly, Lei Zuin launched another attack. As the profound energy in his body surged, his figure turned into a dazzling yellow lightning, like a lightning spear. Yellow light shone resplendently. Lei Zuin's figure was like a lightning spear that streaked across space. With a thunderous roar, he directly shot towards Du Xiaofu. The thunderous figure was closing in at a rapid speed. However, at the same time that Lei Zuin's figure moved, Du Xiaofu's figure also moved. In the next instant, the faint lightning glow in Du Xiaofu's eyes retracted. Immediately, a dazzling and resplendent secret symbol pattern swept out. An extremely astonishing energy swept out, shaking one's soul. Qila. In this instant, it was as if there was 1,000 rays of light shooting out from Du Xiaofu's eyes. The strange light from the secret symbol pattern overlapped. In the end, like a light screen, it enveloped the surrounding space and instantly enveloped Lei Zuin's body. The yellow lightning-like great landmine venerable was as fast as lightning. The instant the light screen from the secret symbol pattern in Du Xiaofu's eyes shone on him, Lei Zuin's sinister eyes suddenly turned sluggish. His figure's speed also immediately decreased greatly, as if he had frozen. The yellow lightning glow on his body also began to dissipate by quite a bit. Du Xiaofu's figure directly appeared in front of Lei Zuin. His speed was as fast as lightning, so fast that not many people saw him. Not good. Elder Lei Zuin, be careful. At this moment, Zhao Lu and Zheng Anteo, as well as the 2 beautiful women, seemed to have discovered something at the same time and immediately shouted. However, it was too late. The Reverend of the Earth Thunder hadn't come back to his senses at all. He seemed to have been deeply affected by the light screen in Du Xiaofu's eyes. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation of the late 8-star chaotic primordial Dao, the strength of his primordial spirit was extremely strong. Among his peers, there were very few who could be mentioned in the same breath as him. Under Du Xiaofu's mysterious soul eye, Leizuan could not dodge at all. The terrifying primordial spirit power was not something he could resist at all. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu's fist, which was covered in golden light, streaked across the space, revealing an overbearing and incomparably arrogant aura. It directly attacked Leizuan's chest. Bang! As the fist fell, Leizuan's body shattered into a bloody mist. Du Xiaofu's fist had directly smashed him into a bloody mist. A chaotic primordial martial venerable expert's blood splattered on the spot. He had been killed by Du Xiaofu with a single punch. Earth Leizuan's body had turned into a bloody mist. He could not be more dead. The appearance of this scene was accompanied by the sound of the energy explosion. When everyone's gazes landed on the tall and straight young man, a chill ran down their spines. Even Zhao Lu, Zhang Anteo, and the other two, who looked at each other in dismay and shouted to warn the Reverend of the Earth Thunder, were momentarily stunned. Demon King Du Xiaofu is already an 8-star chaotic primordial spiritual talisman master. That level of primordial spirit attack is too strong. Earth Leizuan doesn't even know how he died. Oh my god, he killed a chaotic primordial martial venerable with a single move. This Demon King Du Xiaofu, is he still a young man? After a brief moment of shock, there were suddenly sounds of astonishment from the lineup of the major forces. He had killed an 8-star chaotic primordial martial venerable with a single punch. With such strength, who would dare not be moved? Swoosh swoosh. After a brief moment of shock, two terrifying auras swept over. In the void, two auras, one cold and one hot, emerged and instantly enveloped the surrounding space. Boom. The two auras converged and instantly caused the entire square to tremble violently. This aura caused most of the experts from the major forces to tremble for no reason. Whoosh whoosh. Two figures instantly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, one behind the other. Two vast auras enveloped the square. They were the two beautiful women who had been behind Zhao Lu all this time. One of the two beautiful women was wrapped in blazing flames. The blazing temperature caused the surrounding space to distort, causing one's skin to burn and one's soul to tremble. The other was covered in frost. The icy aura could freeze one's primordial spirit and cause one's body to become sluggish. The coldness that penetrated deep into one's primordial spirit could not be removed. Two peak chaotic primordial martial venerables. Du Xiaofu looked back and forth at the two beautiful women. The auras from the two women were not much weaker than the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Miling. They were both extremely terrifying peak chaotic primordial martial venerables. The cultivation level of these two women was not much different from his master, Feng Qingyang. He wondered how many years these two women had cultivated. "Kid, you must die today." The frost-covered beautiful woman's voice was as cold as ice, causing one's ears to feel as if they were about to be frozen. The faint, bone-piercing cold aura surged, causing the energy of heaven and earth above the square to be affected. Chapter 1209. Bullying with Numbers? Isn't it a little unfair? As the beautiful woman spoke, Mu Jianchen, the leader of the Saman Sword Manchu, stood up. His sword-patterned robe fluttered and a sharp glint shot out from his sharp eyes. Mu Jianchen was very strong. He was the undisputed #1 person in Shangzhou's younger generation. His strength was enough to shake the entire Shangzhou. However, although Mu Jianchen was very strong, there was still a gap between him and some of the top experts in the Hahuan school. However, as the young master of the Saman Sword Sect and the leader of the Evil Purifying Alliance, Mu Jianchen's status was very high. With Mu Jianchen's status, he represented the Sa-Meng Sword Sect. As Mu Jianchen stood up and spoke, Zhao Lu and Zhang Anteo of the Hahuan school looked at each other in dismay. Their expressions changed. "Young master, you misunderstand. The auspicious time has arrived and the ceremony for the new schoolmaster has to be held as soon as possible. This Demon King Du Xiaofu came to cause trouble and killed countless experts and disciples of our Hahuan school. Naturally, we can't let him go." Although Zhao Lu was the future schoolmaster of the Hahuan school and a peak 8-star Nirvana Spirit Talisman Master, She still had to give face to Mu Jianchen. I've said it before. Whoever dares to touch the Demon King Du Xiaofu is the same as touching me, Mu Jianchen, touching my Saman sword sect. Mu Jianchen wasn't afraid. His eyes shone with a sharp glint. Hearing Mu Jianchen's words, Zhao Lu's expression darkened. After all, she was the next schoolmaster of the Hahuan school. Although the Hahuan school wasn't as powerful as the Saman sword sect, it was still an old power in Shangzhou. Even with Zhao Lu's cultivation, she far surpassed the current Mu Jianchen. Hahuan school invited all of you here out of goodwill. However, this is a family matter of Hahuan school. Could it be that the Purifying Evil Alliance wants to interfere? Zhao Lu looked at Mu Jianchen, and her eyes trembled slightly. Her casual temperament and gaze were still alluring and sharp. She said to Mu Jianchen, even if your father, Mu Tianhong, was here, I'm afraid that he would interfere with the family affairs of Hahuan school. He wouldn't dare to speak to me like this. Mu Jianchen faintly smiled and looked at Zhao Lu. Suddenly, his aura violently surged out. He looked at Zhao Lu, and there seemed to be a sword-shaped radiance in his eyes. Runes flashed in his eyes, and his voice suddenly became sharp. He said, the family affairs of Hahuan school have nothing to do with me, but if anyone dares to besiege the Demon King Du Xiaofu today, I, Mu Jianchen, will intervene. What can you do to me? Rumble. As Mu Jianchen stood up, his aura surged out. Behind him, numerous Saman sword sect's disciples stood together. Their auras suddenly swept out. Facing the Hahuan school, the Saman sword sect's disciples had never been afraid. Looking at the Saman sword sect's lineup, Zhao Lu, Zheng Anteo, and the other Hahuan school's experts suddenly trembled in their hearts. They weren't really afraid of the Saman sword sect's experts. Although everyone was involved in eliminating the demons this time, the various major powers didn't send out any true super experts. At most, each major power would send 1 or 2 super experts to stand guard, and they would be able to protect their own sect's disciples in times of need. Therefore, the various major powers didn't send too many super experts to the Hahuan school. They wouldn't be able to threaten the Hahuan school. However, to the Hahuan school, they weren't afraid of Mu Jianchen's group. Instead, they were afraid of the enormous Saman sword sect behind Mu Jianchen's group. This was the shocking power of a super sect. At this moment, when the surrounding major sects saw the Saman sword sect and the Hahuan school clashing in the blink of an eye, their expressions changed inwardly as they observed the situation. Mu Jianchen, I'm the main character today, okay? Can you not steal the limelight? Looking at the scene before them, even the 2 beautiful women at the peak of the Origin Immortal realm had their attention focused on Mu Jianchen. This made Du Xiaofu unable to help but roar. He was clearly the main character of this matter. Who would have thought that the moment Mu Jianchen opened his mouth, he would attract everyone's attention? Du Xiaofu didn't know why, but he felt a little displeased. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to deal with their siege, so I had no intention of interfering. Mu Jianchen looked at Du Xiaofu. He raised his sharp gaze and curled his lips. It's just a siege. It's not like I haven't been besieged before. Du Xiaofu's disdainful gaze swept across the 2 beautiful women. He said to Mu Jianchen, don't tell me that you think such trash can do anything to me? You're looking down on me. Mu Jianchen's eyebrows twitched as he shot a glance at Du Xiaofu. Then, he withdrew his aura and sat down facing Du Xiaofu. He looked at Zhao Lu, Zheng Anteo, and the 2 beautiful women and said, I won't interfere in this matter. You all continue. Seeing Mu Jianchen's reaction, the Saman sword sect disciples behind him were stunned. Then, they could only withdraw their auras and quietly follow behind him. Mu Jianchen's reaction made the people of the Hahuan school a little confused. Du Xiaofu also frowned and helplessly rolled his eyes at Mu Jianchen. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu rolled his eyes at Mu Jianchen. Normally, he would only look at the general, Yin Machen, Ghostchild, Li Yuxiao, Gua Xiaofeng, Qinling, and the others. Kill. The 2 beautiful women, one cold and one hot, stared at each other. They didn't hold back and immediately launched an attack. The 2 figures rushed out at the same time, covered in resplendent runes. The 2 figures were like ghosts as they pounced on Du Xiaofu. Their auras shook the void and rumbled. Sizzle. The 2 women attacked at practically the same time. A surging wave of scorching flames and a wave of bone-chilling cold that was enough to shake space locked down the space around Du Xiaofu from the left and right. Then, they violently slammed into Du Xiaofu's body. Rumble. The two energies, one cold and one hot, collided and exploded the space. Then, the sound resounded through the clouds. However, Du Xiaofu's figure rushed out like a ghost amidst the explosion of energy. Golden light burst out and his figure fluttered like a god. In an instant, he appeared in mid-air. Roar! Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and waved. The purple-gold heavenly palace that was stabbed into the square immediately flew into the air and was held tightly in his palm. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu's purple-gold heavenly palace sword directly slashed towards the beautiful woman who was using the ice divine ability. It was simple but extremely domineering. Overbearing sword way. With a cold gaze, Du Xiaofu directly sent a purple-gold sword light towards the beautiful woman who was emitting the ice divine ability. At this moment, Du Xiaofu attacked ruthlessly. His eyes were filled with coldness. The beautiful woman was also very strong. She was at the peak of the chaotic element martial venerable realm and was almost close to the nirvana martial venerable realm. Her ice divine ability was emitting from her body. Frost filled the void and was extremely cold. It could freeze the primordial spirit and physical body of those who were weaker. 1,000 miles of ice seal. The beautiful woman instantly made her move. A palm print, accompanied by the flickering of the color-changing talisman, erupted with profound chi and turned into a torrent of ice, freezing the void and blocking Du Xiaofu's purple-gold sword light. She also wanted to freeze the sword light and shatter Du Xiaofu's sword light in the void. The beautiful woman had probably underestimated the power of Du Xiaofu's sword. With Du Xiaofu's peak transcendent martial venerable realm cultivation, if he used his full strength, without relying on the talisman Dao, just the strength of his physical body alone would be enough to destroy someone of the same cultivation level. It would be easy for him to fight against a chaotic element martial venerable. Moreover, he was using the purple-gold heavenly palace and the overbearing sword way. Chi chi chi. The frozen void was directly shattered by Du Xiaofu's sword. The purple-gold sword light was like a purple-gold thunderbolt that cut through the void and swept towards the beautiful woman with a terrifying sword intent. The beautiful woman was surprised. In an instant, the runes around her body surged and froze the space. Runes spread out from a huge ice pillar and condensed in front of her. However, the ice pillar could not stop the purple-gold sword light and was directly shattered in mid-air. Dang dang. The beautiful woman's delicate body staggered a few steps back. Her eyes were cold. She knew that she had misjudged her opponent. The lesson of Leizuan's mistake was in front of her. Walala. Almost at the same time, the beautiful woman who cultivated the fire divine ability had already attacked. Her graceful figure floated in midair and swooped down. Her hair hung loosely, and her eyes shot out waves of fire runes. However, she revealed an icy cold and ghastly aura. A large amount of blazing flames rolled and turned into a wave that directly engulfed Du Xiaofu. Facing the rolling wave of flames, Du Xiaofu stood in the void and suddenly turned his head. His face was cold and his eyes were fluctuating with golden light. His body was like a boulder, unmoving and unmoving. He did not even have the intention to dodge. Chila. The void trembled. Suddenly, a graceful figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, as if she could cross the space. The person's delicate hand formed a seal. Then, a dazzling rune turned into a wave of rune energy that flickered and illuminated the void. It also collided with the rolling flames like a wave. Rumble. It was as if a thick energy had exploded. It was as if a thunderclap had exploded, causing the void to tremble. It made people gasp. The person who came was an extremely beautiful woman. She looked to be in her 30s and looked very young. She had a thin layer of makeup on her face, and the corners of her eyes were full of lust. She was the laughing Rakshasa, Tang Meiling. Tang Meiling, you're actually not dead. When she saw Tang Meiling appear in front of her, she was suddenly shocked and lost her voice. Her eyes trembled violently. At the same time, Zhao Lu, Zhang Yanteo, and many other people from the Hahuan school were also surprised. Tang Miling looked at the beautiful woman. Her watery eyes looked as if they were about to drip water. She had a faint smile that was enough to move the hearts of all the men in the world. However, at this moment, there was a terrifying chill in her eyes. She muttered softly, "Senior Sister Mahua, there are some debts that we should settle properly."